Getting started.
Okay. So the time is 5 p.m. on 5:08 p.m. on June 14th, 2021, and I would like to call this meeting of the Sustainability Commission to order in the interest of the public health and safety and pursuant to the Governor's Executive Order N2920. Members of the Sustainability Commission and staff are participating in this meeting by teleconference. In accordance with the executive order, the public may view this meeting online, but not in conference room C-101 in building A at City Hall, Chula Vista, California. The city launched a virtual commenting portal, eComment, that allows residents to comment and participate in the meeting from their own homes. You can find the link at eComment at chulavistaca.gov/virtual meetings. Your comments must be received before I call for the close of the commenting period in order to be considered. After the commenting period is closed, I will announce a brief pause to allow the commissioners time to read any comments that have been received. If you have difficulty or are unable to submit a comment, please contact Sustainability Commission staff for assistance at ssc@chulavistaca.gov. Yasmin, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Matias, this is Monica. I'll actually
Monica.
the roll. It's okay. Commissioner Ba.
Present.
Commissioner Guevara Gluyas.
She'll be running late.
Commissioner Corrigan.
Present.
Commissioner Richardson.
Present.
Commissioner Rodriguez. Vice Chair Legaspi.
Present.
And Chair Matthias.
Present. Okay, thank you. The first order of business is item 3, approval of the consent calendar. I will now call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments on items in the consent calendar. As a reminder, please refresh and view your screen to ensure new comments appear.
Hi there. I'm having slight technical difficulties with that slide, so if you can hang on for a sec, unless Yasmin can share that, I will try to fix it in the interim. Yasmin, I don't know if you have it handy. That particular slide is not working for me at this moment.
I have it open, but the timer function is not working for me. I can share it, but without the timer function, it's not gonna work.
That's the problem I'm having as well. So if you guys can hold on for just a moment, I'll try to fix and I'll be right back. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
As an option, I have a stopwatch app on my phone. I could start it and let you know when the 2 minutes are up. Will that work?
Let's do that for now. I will
Okay.
put up the slide and you can do that. Actually, Yasmin, can you do that? And I will try to fix the slide in the background if Yasmin can share and Manuel can do the old school stopwatch. That we'll do that for now. Thank you.
I'll go ahead and start it. The 2 minutes are up.
Okay. So the commenting period for this item is now closed. Have the commissioners had enough time to read any submitted comments? I don't believe there's any comments, correct?
There are no comments on 3.1, 3.2, but there are 2 comments in support of 3.3.
Okay, so that one is approval for grant authority to the Sustainability Commission Chair to send the attached memorandum to the mayor and city council as recommended in support for Assembly Bill 881. Okay. Let's see. Do any commissioners wish to pull any item for discussion or questions?
I'd like to pull 3.1, please.
Okay. Let's see. Announce that you will. So we will remove 3.1 from the consent calendar, and that will be heard separately. So let's go ahead and proceed with this vote. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar minus 3.1?
Sorry, this is Monica, the secretary. Can you please provide me a reason for removing 3.1, the minutes? Is there something that needs to be updated so that way I can make a correction to it?
Yes, I have corrected language. I'm going to request be made in the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar minus 3.1?
So moved.
Okay. So any second?
I'll second.
Morgan, was that you? Oh, no, that
Yes,
was, okay, guess me. Okay, so we have a motion by Chair Richardson for first member, then second by Legaspi to pass and without 3.1. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Ball,
Approve.
Commissioner Corrigan,
Approve, but I feel like I should abstain since 3.2 is my excuse.
okay. Commissioner Richardson,
Aye.
Vice Chair Legaspi,
Aye.
and Chair Matthias.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. The approval of the consent calendar passes. And did someone say no one said they abstained? Okay. Anonymously with the Commissioner Smith opposed. Okay, so the proposal of 3.1 from Richardson. Okay, so chair comments is a section of the agenda for members of the public to address the board. We're in public comments right now. Address the board
Chair.
on items. Yes.
We can move on and start discussing item 3.1.
Oh,
and
so
then
we
take a vote
discuss
on
it at this point.
Yeah, so we can move on.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
So we can gotcha. So aren't we on public comments now?
No,
Are you saying that we need
I
to
have
discuss
revisioned it.
3.1?
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
Right.
gotcha. Okay, go
Uh,
ahead.
Yeah, basically the last sentence on item 5.1, I'd like to replace that sentence with the following sentence. City Clerk Bigelow also clarified that staff recommendations are not part of agenda items, but are provided to inform the public of possible actions that could be taken on agenda items. So I would move approval of 3.1 with the following change. I'll repeat it and I'll also send a copy to whoever would like to have it. Replace the final sentence in paragraph 1 of 5.1 with the following. City Clerk Bigelow also clarified that staff recommendations are not part of agenda items, but are provided to inform the public of possible actions that could be taken on agenda items. So I'd move approval with the minutes with that amendment.
Okay. So do we make those changes now, or will that be for the next meeting?
No, this is to be revised before, as a part of this meeting. We're amending that.
Okay, with those minutes. Okay, can you repeat that again? Exactly. Oh, I'm gonna have to type it
Okay.
out or write it down. I'm not that fast of a writer.
Okay.
Okay, say it again.
Replace the final sentence in paragraph 1 of item 5.1 with the following sentence. City Clerk Bigelow also clarified that staff recommendations are not part of agenda items, but are provided to inform the public of possible actions that could be taken on agenda items. I believe I've seen Mr. Silva here, who was also present. I make sure that I've got that correct, that was a clarification that City Clerk Bigelow did make.
I'd have to review the tape for her exact words, but it sounds generally right. The gist of
Okay.
it being it's among the options that could be taken. It's not a limiting statement.
Yeah, the way it's worded right now, that final sentence says that basically the action we take is to accept or reject the staff's recommendation, and that's not the way it worked.
No, it's among
Basically,
the,
it's among the options. Okay.
yes.
So did you get that down at this point as to what I'd like to have that sentence?
No,
read?
I'm just going to have you repeat it when I say it's time for you with
Okay.
to replace, and then you're going to say it because I type things out and there's no way I could write that fast. I'm not shorthanded. I don't do shorthand. So, okay. So, let me go back now. So we will take a motion to accept the minutes with the revisions as stated.
Okay. And I'm making that motion. Replace the final sentence in paragraph 1 of item 5.1 with the following sentence. City Clerk Bigelow also clarified that staff recommendations are not part of agenda items, but are provided to inform the public of possible actions that could be taken on agenda items.
Okay. So on that note, you are approving that.
I'm moving it, yes.
You're motioning it. Okay. Is there a second?
Commissioner Ball, I will second it.
Okay, and Commissioner Boss seconds it. So, let's see. I have motion by Commissioner Richardson to move the agenda and or to replace the 5.1 with the stated comment, and then Boss second that. Would you mind, Secretary? Would you mind taking the roll?
Commissioner Ball,
Aye.
Commissioner Corrigan,
Aye.
Commissioner Richardson,
Aye.
Vice Chair Legaspi,
Aye.
and Chair Matthias.
Aye.
Monica, we have Commissioner Rodriguez on too.
Okay, Commissioner Rodriguez, can I get your vote?
I'll abstain because I didn't catch everything that happened.
Okay, thank you.
So the vote, so 5.1 with the replacement passes for the consent calendar. So thank you so much. Okay, so now we're moving on to public comments. So public comments is a section of the agenda for members of the public to address the board on items that are not listed in the agenda. I will now allow for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final public comments. And commissioners, as a reminder, please refresh the view on your screen to ensure the new comments appear.
Just to confirm that we couldn't fit this slide in time, so I'm doing a timer on my phone and I'll let you know when time's up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And time is up.
Okay, thank you. Commenting period for the public comments is now closed. Have the commissioners had enough time to read the comments? I believe there were two. Correct? Is that what you guys have? Two comments?
Actually, none under public comments.
Okay. Got it. Okay. So let's go ahead and go on to presentations. And the next item on the agenda is 5.1 under presentations to update on Chula Vista's organic waste diversion program and landfill operations. And the presenters are Republic Services.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce Giovanna Castro, Municipal Administrator for Republic Services, who will be presenting to us on what you see here on the screen, the Food and Yard Waste Collection Program and Community Outreach and Education Plan. Also with Giovanna is Neil Moore, Landfill Operations Manager, also for Republic Services, who is here to also to address the commission and answer any questions you may have. Go ahead, Giovanna.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for the introduction, Manuel. As Manuel mentioned, I'm the Municipal Administrator for Republic Services, and I will be outlining our Community Outreach and Education Plan for the Food and Yard Waste Collection Program and the next slide.
Giovanna, it's kind of hard to hear you.
Can you hear me better like this?
Yeah, much better.
Okay. So if you can just do the next slide, please. Perfect. So here's just some background regarding the organics program. So in 2016, SB 1383 was signed, which is the most significant waste reduction mandate to be adopted in California in the last 30 years. It requires the state to reduce organic waste, which includes food waste, green waste, and paper products disposal by 75% by 2025. The law also requires the state to increase edible food recovery by 20% by 2025. So starting January 1, 2022, regulations will take into effect, and all residents and businesses in the state of California will be required to divert organic waste from the landfill. Next slide, please. So for the city of Chula Vista, Republic and the city are currently working on finalizing the program for city residents and businesses. So for residential customers, food and green waste will be commingled in one cart. And then for the commercial collection, it will be source separated. So there'll be one cart for food and one cart for green waste. All residents will receive a kitchen caddy in order to transport their food scraps from their kitchen to their green waste bin. And then we'll also have a dedicated recycling coordinator for the city of Chula Vista to assist businesses and multifamily properties with setting up their programs. So all organic waste for the city will be processed into compost at the O-Type composting operation located at the O-Type landfill. And Republic, in partnership with the city of Chula Vista, will execute an extensive public outreach and education program to educate customers on the changes. Next slide, please. So some goals and objectives of the program is to build awareness on the new regulations, increase participation citywide, engage the community and get them excited about recycling food waste, successful customer experience, partner with stakeholders, and assist the city and Republic in reaching our recycling goals. Next slide, please. So we will utilize various communication channels from community events, media relations and advertisements, presentations, our website, community partnerships, educational materials, and social media. Next slide, please. So for educational materials, we'll be preparing multiple reference guides, brochures, and bill inserts in multiple languages, including English and Spanish, in order to educate the residents and businesses of Chula Vista on the program, as well as what is accepted and not accepted, and answer frequently asked questions. We'll also send out digital emails, and when the program does roll out, we'll be expanding our OOP tag program to educate businesses on what is and not accepted in the cart, and to reinforce proper recycling for organic. Next slide, please. So Republic Services just recently launched a City of Chula Vista specific website. It's republicservices.com/Chula Vista, California. I encourage all of you to go and visit it. So it has lots of resources, educational materials, and information about the food and yard waste program. It also has a frequently asked questions section and answers, including for the food and yard waste collection program. Like I said, I strongly encourage you to check it out and see how it can be a resource to you. There's also a really fun kids corner to engage students about recycling and environmental initiatives. Next slide, please. So Republic and the city will collaborate a strategy and implementation plan for social media outreach. So we'll utilize our social media platforms to promote the program. We'll continuously develop content that can be used on the city's platforms as well as ours. And we will engage the community to share how they compost and recycle via social media, including photo contests for residents, as well as a coloring contest for on the right-hand side, you can see I have some flyers that I've already created, one for commercial and one for residential, and it has the acceptable materials as well as items that are not accepted. And then at the bottom, there is a poster of, what can be recycled for regular recyclable commodities, organic, and what belongs into the trash can. And so we will continue to develop these engaging materials and share them with the city. Next slide. In addition to educational materials, we will continue to participate in community events throughout the city of Chula Vista. I know due to the pandemic, there hasn't been many events to participate in, but hopefully things will be changing rather shortly. So some of the events that we've participated in the past and will continue to participate in is the Beautify Chula Vista, Starlight Parade, and South Bay Birthday. Next slide, please. In addition, we are going to partner with various key stakeholders to get the message out about organic. So below is a list of some key stakeholder groups, including the Chula Vista Chamber of Commerce, I Live a Clean San Diego, Living Coast Discovery Center, and Girl Scouts of San Diego. So we actually partnered with Girl Scouts of San Diego to create a Recycling 101 patch in order to engage Girl Scouts in the South Bay area to get excited about recycling and learn more about it. So that program will expand to organic recycling and to get them excited. And we're also going to be partnering with the Chula Vista Elementary School District in getting the message out to not only the students, but also teachers and principals in order to help them facilitate their organic waste program and provide educational resources to the district as a whole. Next slide, please. In addition, we'll be doing ongoing presentations starting in the fall to council meetings, businesses, and community groups. It will be a joint effort with the City of Chula Vista and Republic Services. Our presentations will provide us an opportunity to educate about the new program and answer any questions that constituents might have. And City and Republic staff will receive feedback and ideas from the community and implement that into our program. Next slide, please. And lastly, we'll also engage the media in order to educate about the upcoming changes. So some publications include the Star News, Al Latino San Diego, and our hometown magazine. As mentioned earlier, we will be doing all of our education and outreach in Spanish and English in order to reach all the residents in the city of Chula Vista. Next slide. And that concludes my presentation. So if anyone has any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
Here you have a couple
I'm
of
trying. I was trying, sorry. Okay, so does any commissioners have any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
You're doing all this outreach and advertising and letting people know what's to be collected from the various households. What are you going to do with all that material when you get it in your trucks? Where does it go? And how do we know that it's actually going to be put in some place? It's not going to just end up like the plastics have in the past. We think it's been recycled, but in fact, it's going somewhere we're not happy about. So where is all this material going to go? What are you going to do with it?
Yeah, so all of the material, all of the organic material for the city of Chula Vista will be turned into compost at our O-type composting facility. And Neil Moore, which is the general manager for the O-type composting facility, is actually on the line, and he can explain better the process for that.
Sure, and Commissioner, thanks for the question. Let me jump in here because I found it interesting that in Giovanna's presentation, she talked so much about education, and that's really going to be the key. We've spent a lot of time, and Manuel and his team also have been helping with how do we reach out to the public to make sure that they are throwing the appropriate material in their green waste bin. And they've also to date been working hard with the grocery stores, restaurants, commercial institutions to work with them to make sure that they aren't contaminating the waste stream. Let me just, I thought I had my video on there. So what we're doing is we're going to have a strong program to make sure that plastics and wrap and don't get into the residential containers. Recognizing that that's probably not, we're going to have difficulty when we bring in restaurants to this. And so what we are also putting together as part of the composting operation is we're having it's called a turbo separator, that we will be running material to a separate separator from the commercial businesses, because we just have seen that restaurants just have too much plastic contamination in it. And so we've looked quite a bit for technologies to handle this, and we've selected a turbo separator made by Scott Equipment Company. It's called a Thor or a Mega Thor. We have one constructed at our Anaheim Recycling Center right now. And what it's like is let's see how best to describe it. They call it a hammer mill. You put the material in, the food waste and the plastics, and it has a mechanism that actually separates the plastic, pulverizes the organic material, food waste and such, and is squeezed out through screens that the plastic doesn't get torn up in such small pieces. And so the organics go in one direction, almost like I describe it as an oatmeal, and the plastics are removed into another bin that will be separated from the organic material. And we've been using it for, oh gosh, about 2 years now up in Anaheim, and it's working really well. It's a technology that we've spent a lot of time researching, and we're very comfortable with that. So we still want to keep the materials clean as possible, but that is separating for those customers that aren't successfully cleaning it. So that's and that waste stream, that oatmeal that I described, would be introduced into our compost area. The compost technology we're using is a aerated static pile, which we build a windrow of the compost, and we have pipes inside the compost pile. And then on top of the compost pile, we place this special, like a tarpaulin or a tarp made of Gore-Tex. So it's just like a Gore-Tex jacket and holds the moisture in and accelerates the decomposition process of the compost. All that is, when we call it an aerated, you actually blow air into it. And so we're going to be building a fairly large solar array down at our Otay facility to run the blower system for the compost. So that's how we have it planned right now. The material from commercial will go to compost. It also, if we're working with some wastewater treatment plants, if they decide to augment their waste streams with this, we could move it to there also. But right now, it's going to be going as compost. Hope I answered that question. I thought
just to finish that up,
sure.
Once you've got all that compost that you put together at Otay landfill, where do you end up putting it later? It's not going to just stay there in a compost pile. What's your plan for it in the future?
Okay, that's a good question, and SB 1383 has a plan for that. They've asked the communities that are involved in this program throughout the state of California, based on their population, to start a program where they incorporate that compost into their new development, into their park system, into their parkways, to customer giveaways, things like that. We're also looking at marketing that material to agricultural. We're actually looking as far down in Baja, Mexico for moving some of the material.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, I have a question. This is Chair Mathias. And the turbo separator, you said that is mainly for the commercial? Okay, so what would you do for the rest of the public, the community? Because we're now putting in our green waste spend, we have sticks, trees, we have, there's a lot of that. And then you're throwing in the food waste. And so how are you processing all that? And plus, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of unfortunate contamination because people don't want to stick their food waste in the green waste bin with all of their green waste and it get all over the, it's going all over the place. So they'll probably put it in plastic bags no matter how many times you tell them not to. Just like right now with recycling, they still can't get that straight.
Right. So we will have a sorting line also for the green material that comes off the residential trucks. So, and we have our contractor with performance standards, because to make this material usable, we have very strict contamination levels that we have to show to the state. And so we'll have our contractor responsible for sorting that. Now, depending on how much contamination and how well the education program works, will really kind of dictate if we can use a hand sort, or some places have gone to a first grind of the entire greens, wood, and food waste, and then separate with like a blower system for plastics, where you can pull the plastics off. So we have very strict standards we have to meet. So it's going to be dictated on how well a hand sort does, or will we have to use other mechanical means.
So now what about microplastics?
I wish I had a great answer for that. With our process of the Thor, it does do a very good separation, because the hammer mill turns at a speed so it doesn't just really separate plastic. So we can get the plastics out pretty well and manage those separately. If they are in the waste stream going into the compost, again, most of that will be hand sorted. you know, we don't have, no one really has a good answer for microplastics right now, except that we put in systems that try not to create them in the first place. I guess that's the best answer we have.
What about the chances of chemicals and stuff going into the green waste bin because of people spraying their plants, their trees, things like that?
Let me try to answer that. I'm not the compost expert, and he's on vacation. That's why I'm filling in a little bit. But we have a pretty rigorous testing protocol that we have to do on the compost. So not only are we tracking temperatures and oxygen and degradation, but we also have to sample the compost for pesticide contamination and such. So that's also part of the testing that we have to do to verify that we can use it on, you know, for sale or you know, placement on to the public.
And so if it is contaminated, where would it go?
Well, if it was contaminated, likely it would have to take it to the landfill.
So how far are you guys in completing this? Because we're waiting for a tour. We want to know what's going on.
Right. Well, you know, tomorrow looks like a good day for everyone with the 15th over. So June 15th and no masks. We have our permit. We're grading our new pad. We have our installers coming in, I believe first week in July, to install the solar panels and the gore bags and the piping. So that second week in July would be a great time to come out, unless you want to see, you know, you're welcome to come out before that, and we can kind of give you you'll see a before and after.
Okay. And one more question.
Sure.
How many other facilities, public facilities, are using this method?
I don't know exactly. We have several throughout the state of California. And in fact, this year we were named Organics Recycler of the Year for the processes we have. I can get that number for you. I just don't know off the top of my head how many.
Okay. And what's their diversion rate right now in those areas, their collection and diversion?
I
Okay.
I don't quite understand the question, but I don't know.
What's the percentage that they are diverting from the landfills right now? These are areas that are currently operating.
From the organics, I don't know the exact percentage. You know, I was kind of checking the math when Giovanna said this has been most significant regulation in 30 years. And what she was referencing was AB 939 back in the late 80s, when we passed the law that said we have to divert 50% of the waste that's going to landfills. It didn't specify organic. It was just saying we have to do 50%. So this is a very significant piece of legislation because it so aggressively goes after organics. And it's everyone in the next couple years is going to have, you know, you all understand it because you're involved in an environmental community. You understand the organics program, but we have so many people that aren't right now. And so it's going to be a very different picture in 3 years when we're all talking about, you know, and it may be before that, but I'm just giving the public a lag time to say, holy cow, what are we doing? But we're really approaching our way we manage waste totally different. And so it really is back to 88 or so when they passed AB 939. These are huge steps we're trying to take as a state and how we address you know, greenhouse gas emissions, really.
Okay, I think I'll let someone else talk. Does
Sure.
anyone have any questions? Any other commissioners?
There you had Commissioner Ball raise her question earlier.
Yeah, I do. Okay, let me go. I have a series of questions. Let's see. The location of the facility where you're going to be setting up the compost, can you kind of describe where that is? Is it what face of the hill out at the landfill?
Sure. If you, yeah, as you come into the landfill, if you head up toward our landfill gas energy project, it's on the north center of the landfill property. It'll be just due east of that. So as you look at the hill of the landfill, it will be on the northwest corner.
The northwest corner.
Yes.
Okay. So the Otay Ranch community is kind of, can see it,
Otay Ranch
is north, would be north of it.
You know, if they could see our research project, they would see it because it's in the same area as the research project. And I think there's some berms and we're high enough elevation that they may not see it. But
Okay.
but that's the corner would be in. There's along, if you're on Olympic Parkway looking south, it would be on that side of the landfill.
Okay. I feel like you're going to be producing a lot of compost, or hopefully you're going to be producing a lot of compost because everyone's going to be doing this. And I'm concerned that we have a market for this. Is the contract including that you do promotion about the value and benefit of compost to get people buying into that side of this whole cycle?
Yes, that's part of it. We certainly, as I said, the bill was concerned about the marketability, so they put in provisions for communities to look at sourcing the material once it's made. So when Chula Vista sends their material here, they have a commitment in the regulation to use so many tons per year of the compost. But we're also looking at some agricultural applications. Working with the Farm Bureau right now to try to promote the use of this material. As I mentioned, we've reached out to some of the growers that actually have been pushed out of Oceanside and Carlsbad, North County, strawberry and some of the vegetables that are farther down in Baja California. We've had them come and take a look at some of our material from the research project. So we'll be working with them. But it is. It's a market that's probably not going, because you have so many communities looking at this right now. We don't put a huge dollar amount on the end of the product, but we're trying. What we're finding is if we can screen material coming in, the bigger value relies in the mulch product, which is the wood chip. That we'll screen the material and get certain size classifications, and that has a pretty that is a market that's been very sustainable and for erosion control on highway projects, road projects, construction sites. That seems to be a good value market right now. The compost, it's going to be proving it out and trying to get places to manage it.
Okay. What is the expected cost that this is going to increase the bills for the residential customers? I haven't seen that.
Yeah, and I don't think we've finalized that yet. I know our hauling division is working with Manuel and his team to come up with the pricing, and I'm not sure that that's ready for prime time yet, but I'm sure he'll share it with you when we're ready to go.
Yeah, and this is Giovanna. I can jump in. As Neil mentioned, we're currently working on finalizing the pricing, and it should go to council within the next couple of weeks. So as soon as it's finalized, you guys will.
It was hard to hear Giovanna, but I think she's saying the information is going to be finalized in the next couple of weeks, and maybe it'll be coming out soon.
Yeah, that's correct. I apologize. I'm talking through my computer. Yes, we're currently working on finalizing the program and the pricing information. So you should expect to see it shortly.
Okay. What does the container look like that you're going to be giving to each household that's supposedly in their kitchen? And is it big enough to hold very much, or is it going to be like a couple days worth and you're going to be taking it out to the green waste container?
So the kitchen height, I don't know the exact dimensions of it. No, maybe you know, but it's supposed to sit on your kitchen counter. It's not very large. I know some people put it in their freezer as well. So I mean, I guess it depends how much food waste you have. So it's really just supposed to be a resource to make it easier. What you're cooking or whatever the case may be, instead of throwing it into your kitchen, you throw it into your kitchen caddy and then take it out to the green.
So will it smell after a while? I mean, if 5 days later?
No, no, it's a special container specifically to hold.
She's breaking.
Well, yeah, and I think the question, will it smell? I would think you're going to want to take it out to your green waste container, probably more than every 7 days. But it's supposed to sit conveniently in the kitchen, just as a reminder to, hey, don't throw that in the trash. We got to get it in the green waste container.
But if I put it in, if I take it out and it stays in the green waste container for 5 days, that's what I'm trying to figure out. What's it going to be like out there if everyone's dumping their stuff in there?
Well, it's going to be, it's the same as your trash container, I guess, because you're throwing it away anyway.
Well,
Right.
I bag it up in my trash container.
What's that?
I bag it up in my trash container. So maybe you don't know, but I'm.
Just to fill in, we're going to, that's going to be part of the education we'll provide our residents. We're going to have best management practices like putting green waste on top of some of the food and kind of putting it together. Also, if you could save some, because another item that needs to go in there besides food and as required by law is food soil paper and food soil cardboard. So say you have a bag of a paper bag of food that's obviously it's greasy, you can't recycle it. You could always also put some of the food waste in there and then just take it over to the yard waste cart. So there's going to be some best management practices that we'll promote to residents to alleviate those odor issues as much as possible.
And right now it's going to be just voluntary for the residents. I mean, there's not going to be someone really keeping track of whether they have done this or not.
Actually, this law is very prescriptive. In 2022, it's just education. But as of 2024, we are required to do enforcement on both residents and businesses. So we will have folks out there, just like we haven't because of the pandemic, but we normally have staff and Republic Services drivers give out something that Giovanna mentioned in her presentation, the OOPS tags. Making sure that we tell people when they're not putting the right item on there. And actually all that needs to be reported back to the state because they require us to do quite a bit of monitoring and reporting back to them. But yes, to answer your question, as of 2024, there will be enforcement.
Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Hey, is there any other commissioners that would like to talk or ask questions? No? Okay, so I do. I have another question. How much can the facility, well, eventually when it gets built, handle on a daily basis?
200 tons a day.
Okay. And that includes all the green waste and everything. Okay. So how was the pilot program on the east side? Was it successful? Was it not successful? What did you guys learn from it?
I can chime in. It is still going on actually, and it's but this is a little different because it only accepts vegetated food waste. So based on what we learned is that again, business needs a lot of hand holding, and I mean we do quite a bit of education. We have staff devoted to every single one of those. One staff person devoted to every single one of those participants in the program. It's around 21 businesses around the city. And it's not just the east, it's throughout west and east of Chula Vista. And yes, because of employee turnover, there's a lot of there's a learning curve. So again, that's going to be a continual effort. Just like you said earlier, that people still put the wrong stuff in the recycling container. That's still going to be unfortunately the case for commercial and residential. So that's just going to be our call to action pretty much as we move along.
Okay. Any other questions?
Madam Chair, is this, we're also going to talk about the leachate investigation at the landfill. Is that correct before this is over? Or are we, or that's part of this item, at least it's supposed to be.
Yes, you can go ahead and ask a question if you like.
Well, yeah, basically there was an investigation that was launched back in June of 20, I think, no, earlier than that, 2020 from the Regional Water Control Board asking about leachate that was apparently coming out of the landfill, wanting to know how it got in there, what controls were going on, a variety of questions which I asked, they put on the agenda. Also, Councilmember Galvez was interested in hearing the responses to that issue as well. So I think that's something we need to hear about at this particular meeting. And I certainly have some follow-up questions after you make a shortened presentation on whatever you'd like to say about it.
Sure. Let me, yeah, because I didn't see it on the agenda, but I wanted to be able to talk to it. And I apologize. I think it tried to come up last commission meeting and I wasn't available. But yes, we were asked to do a investigative order on the leachate generation at the Otay landfill. And now what that is leachate is any liquid that comes in contact with the waste. So if we have rainfall and we're actively filling, we can't manage that as stormwater. That seeps into the landfill. We actually burn the material, the waste area, to get the liquid to stay on the trash. And what leachate is a term for any liquid that comes in contact with the waste and percolates down through the landfill. We have a what's called a composite liner system. Back in the 90s, California established regulations on building liner systems in landfills. And part of that is we have high density polyethylene plastic liners under the landfill that have actually a network of pipes that are located on top of that liner that drain to a low spot where we can capture that liquid and pump it out and either recycle it on site or treat it off site. And so what happened was we report all the liquids that we manage out of the landfill, the leachate that seeps down through the landfill. We pump it to a central location, test it, and then take it off site for disposal. And Otay has when you're looking at some of the other landfills in the San Diego Regional Water Quality Control Board area, we were generating more liquid than leachate than some other landfills. And I thought maybe Commissioner Legaspi would have kind of explained some of this when this came up, because he's familiar with some of the waste streams that we've managed at the site. The Otay landfill was identified by the Regional Water Quality Control Board because of our liner system to help manage some of the more wet waste streams. What we did a lot of work with the Port of San Diego, the City of San Diego, the shipbuilding in and around the Bay of San Diego because of stormwater contamination and some of the painting of ships and things. there was a large order to try to clean up the bay, the San Diego Bay. And so our landfill is considered a subtitle D landfill. We can manage municipal solid waste and some other waste streams like dredging material and sludges, as long as they pass a test that California has to establish the difference between hazardous waste and municipal solid waste. So the Otay landfill was identified by the water board to manage a lot of these dredge materials from the bay. Now, what they do is they have a dredging machine that goes out into the bay, pulls up the sediment from the bay, and then they have to dry it. And it has to be dried or treated with cement to get it to a certain moisture content that we can manage at our facilities. Can't have any what's called free liquids. And free liquids meaning when you pick it up, it can't have any liquids running from it, but it's still a very moist material like a mud. And so during the cleanups, we managed quite a bit of dredging material, all within our permit regulations. But we think, with that, those dredging materials mixed in with the municipal solid waste, they created more leachate than some other landfills that don't manage that waste. And so the board asked us to identify and just make sure that our leachate collection system was working properly, that we didn't have a buildup of liquid in the landfill and it wasn't impacting the stability. And they asked us to hire a third-party consultant to review that. And so you are right, we had this investigative order. Geologic Associates, GLA, performed the study. And what they did was they looked at all the waste streams we managed, and every waste stream that comes into the landfill that's not from a resident, like a household municipal solid waste, we have to have profiles on where we test it for metals and petroleum and standards that the state has set up. And we also have to test it for moisture content and such. And so we provided that information. And what the consultant said is that it looks like, those waste streams aren't being managed at some of the other landfills and contributed to the liquids that the leachate that we were seeing. They did show that our leachate collection system was operating properly in removing the liquid. We also, because we have so many gas collection wells, we also put some pumps in those to pull liquid out also. So unlike some landfills that just wait for the liquid to percolate down through the waste and hit the leachate collection system, we were capturing it from that source, but also we had some wells that we collected liquid from too. And so we bring that all, and when next time when you come on a tour for the composting operation, we'll show you how we collect our leach liquid, and we put it in tanker trucks and test it. And then what we do is we take that down to the Point Loma wastewater treatment plant, and they can process it, and we provide them monthly analysis of the liquid. And so we were able to explain to the water board that our leachate collection system was operating properly. The amount that we were managing looks like it was associated with the dredging material that we took, that they told us to take because we were the secure landfill in the area with the liner system, and that we didn't see any stability analysis. So that report should be on GeoTracker now. It was submitted last year. So but and again, you have to give credit to the water board for identifying when they're comparing different landfills. They saw that we had more liquid, but I've operated landfills throughout the country, and probably Ed Commissioner Legaspi can kind of talk about that also. When you look at some of the landfills in Texas and the East Coast or in Washington, where you have the heavy rain, the amount of leachate that we see in a month some of these sites are generating that much in a day. There's that much disparity. So it was an anomaly when you look at Southern California landfills, but for the design and comparatively, it was in line with, you know, municipal solid waste landfills. So, and that report should be on GeoTracker.
Just a couple of follow-up questions. I guess the liner, how old is the liner? Is there any potential that that liner could have an aging problem at some point? And was there any looking for leachate that is outside the landfill territory?
Yeah.
Potentially you have some leaks taking place in that liner. Was that examined as well?
Yeah, thanks. That's a good question. I should have mentioned that. So these liner systems, we certainly do leak detection tests, and we have quality assurance, quality control when we build them, and they're usually built in phases. So the county actually started the first liner section back in 92, 93. We took over operations in 97 and continued that liner system. And so when you build a liner, you use, it's called a composite liner. So you use some type of a clay component that has a certain permeability, and then you have a plastic liner that on top of that you build your drainage network. And the standard for municipal solid waste landfills by the EPA is that we can never have greater than 1 foot of leachate on top of the liner system. And the reason they say that is because you want everything to flow down to your low spot where you can capture it, and you don't want liquid sitting on your liner system, because if you did have a hole, then you could create a driving force to push the liquid down through. But because it's composite, you have a clay component that isn't going to degrade. You have a plastic component on top of that. So is there some degradation? There, you know, probably not in this short a time frame, but maybe over a long period there will be. But they're designed such to continually move liquid to the low spot where it's pumped out. We track it by monitoring the elevation there and remove it. Now, the other question, if it would get out, we have a network of monitoring wells around the landfill also that we take samples for. And we look at up gradient and down gradient of the landfill in the groundwater table, and we monitor those and report all those findings to the Regional Water Quality Control Board, where you would also see if there was any impacts to groundwater. And the one thing that seems to be pretty amazing, or I don't know, amazing is the right word, but because this area was a old quarry for clay, and the county operated a landfill there on about 40 acres adjacent to our property, and they didn't have any liners, and they were actually taken. This was before in the 70s, and so before you couldn't take liquids, and they took liquids in there, and we're protective of our property, so we have network of wells around their property, and we haven't seen impacts from their landfill, and they took liquid waste there. So there's a good clay component there for protecting the groundwater resources there. But we do have a monitoring network also that we protect against, or sample to and report to the water board.
You actually operate the landfill under regulations, you said, as to what you can accept and what you can't accept. You have testing of that material. How do you handle it when something comes into that landfill and it doesn't meet your test? What do you do?
Well, in any trucks that aren't municipal solid waste, we have our check at the gate where we approve the profile of that waste stream to make sure that it meets, that we have it tested and it's acceptable at our landfill. We also have load check programs. And, you know, those are at the working phase where we have our team of spotters and traffic control folks that we have to actually go through, and we're looking for unacceptable waste streams like, you know, household hazardous waste, electronic goods, oil cans, you know, pesticide bottles, things like that. So those are, if we identify them, we have to pull them out, and we have a storage locker, and we report the volume. One of the interesting waste streams that has come under attention lately is treated wood waste. Like railroad ties and fence posts that have been treated with CCA. There a law triggered in January 1st of this year that said you can't, you have to handle those as hazardous waste. And so we've had to break the bad news to a lot of homeowners that are pulling up their fence posts. We can't take them right now. We've had to break the news to Chula Vista, and I know they're holding some of their materials on site for these treated wood. So we have a system to check it before it gets there. Once it gets there, we also have checks. If we see something that's unacceptable, we have to pull it up and have the customer remove it. And we've had to do that also.
And you also operate the cartage, the carrying of the trucks that bring the material into the landfill. Well, how do you deal with something when your own trucks is bringing in material you can't accept at your landfill? Is there any conflict there between, you got the driver being paid the same paycheck you are, and yet you got constraints on what you can accept, and they're trying to deliver it? How does that work?
Well, I guess it's a good question, but there are people above me that get real upset with compliance issues, and that compliance kind of trumps all of us. So that's why we have a system, and we try to and train our drivers to make sure they know what they're picking up. The one thing about Chula Vista is nice that we have a long time workforce that kind of understands what we can and can't take. We give them oops tickets if they see, television sets or things like that we can't take. But, it comes down to it's a compliance issue, and that is very easily answered by, hey, we can't manage that. We have to find another way to manage it. And, the strange thing is, and Commissioner Legaspi can explain this, some waste that we can't manage here in California, get in a truck and drive over the Colorado River, and the amazing healing power of the Colorado River takes a California hazardous waste and makes it acceptable in Arizona as a municipal solid waste. So Commissioner Legaspi can talk a little bit about that, because they manage a lot of waste and in Arizona facilities that we can't manage here. And so it's just the way that the regulations are set up. And so, we have to turn those waste streams away in California, but they can go to Arizona and be managed in a similar landfill design.
Well, I haven't looked at the reports you said were done or completed on it. I'm certainly not an expert in this. I'm on the electric side and that kind of thing. I'm a numbers person. But certainly when it comes to the issues of water and groundwater, particularly when you talk about the Colorado River and what we're facing now in terms of reduction in water supply, anything that potentially affects the availability of water in San Diego County is going to be at the top of at least my list.
Mm-hmm.
And when I read about leachate and potential for that, it certainly got my attention. I brought it to Councilmember Galvez's attention. I brought it to city staff attention, and I wanted it on this agenda because water is going to be the new gold in the future. Yep. And whether they'll accept it and dumped in Arizona or not is not a concern. Yeah. Right. That's Arizona's problem. Okay.
Well, yeah. Well, I guess we could look at this. It's expensive to us, but we do take this water to the Point Loma wastewater treatment plant, which has just been, funding their pure water project that I've been quite involved with. And so they're going to be scalping water from that plant. So in a few years, we'll be, through the pure water project, we'll be drinking Otai's leachate. Now, after a few treatment steps, but I mean, it really, and I think that's why the sustainability program and what Chula Vista is doing is so important, because we do have to look at not just one area. You know, we have to be making decisions that are sustainable and connecting. It's just not the water program, the solid waste, and the, you know. So I appreciate your all time, because it really is important if we're going to get to those goals. It's thinking about that and saying, hey, wait a second, you know, how could that impact other resources?
Thank you. You've answered my questions. I look forward to coming out and checking it out. I saw the earlier experiment with your composting, and that's certainly want to see where this is going to develop and what's going to happen with that landfill. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you.
Okay, I do have another question. You mentioned the lychee and the testing. What happens when it fails the test? Where does that go?
So far it hasn't, but if we did, we have a backup industrial water treatment facility up in the Los Angeles area that we could take it to. And it's, so we do have to look at backups, and that's where it would have to go if we would, you know. And the strange thing is, we could actually recycle it back in the landfill. There's programs that you could do that. We have not done that. Once we collect it, we're moving it off site. But the option would be to an industrial treatment facility up in the Los Angeles area.
Okay. You had mentioned there's 200 tons that you'll be able to collect daily. How much? So you foresee Chula Vista being perfect, we're doing everything great, they're not putting any plastics in, they're following by all the rules, and they're not contaminating, so there's a 200 tons. How much would the landfill, you said they could hold 200 tons, how much do you predict Chula Vista could do in a day?
Manuel might have those numbers better, but I would say maybe 110 tons, 115 tons right now. But I don't know exactly, but that's what kind of the greens are in that ballpark right now. And
so the question is whether we'll have capacity for Chula Vista's organic waste, and the answer is yes at this point.
Yeah, we'll have the capacity. I just don't know how much exactly. Yes, the 200 tons will be capacity. We won't. That's enough for Chula Vista. Yes.
Okay, now what happens? You guys got the contract for North San Diego for either Oceanside or Carlsbad, or maybe both at this point. So how does that affect that tonnage?
Carlsbad, we're looking at that material too, and that would be they probably have about 80 tons or so. So we are looking at managing Carlsbad and Chula Vista here.
So that would be about 200 tons a day.
We think so. We think so from what numbers we have. You know, the numbers of greens continues to go down as people put more xeriscape lands in, and we're not seeing as much. So that's why I just don't want to say, hey, that's how much we're going to have. But it seems to be going down.
Okay. Commissioners, are there any other questions?
I have one quick question.
Yes.
My question is a simple one, but yet broad. Given the charges of this commission and our interests, what do you predict your greatest challenge will be in achieving our common goals within the next year or two? And how do you see this commission assisting you to ensure that those goals are achieved?
Well, thanks for the question. It really is going to come down to an education. You heard Manuel, enforcement starts in 2024. We're not going to be making any friends if we have to go with enforcement. So it's those programs of just getting the word out. And, you know, it's going to start in schools, just like our recycling program started, where we got the kids talking about recycling and coming home and kind of saying, hey, that goes here, don't throw it here. I think, you know, and I know we have a lot of confidence in Giovanna setting up programs with the schools. You know, she mentioned it and didn't really take much credit for it, but she came up with a merit badge for the Girl Scouts on recycling. And it is those programs that you all can help to say, hey, we're going to need you to participate because you have us as a commission that is looking at sustainability. And we need your participation to keep these waste streams. We're seeing it not only in organics with recycling right now. This, you know, for us to be effective with recycling, we have to get a cleaner waste stream in our recycle bins. So helping participate in the recycling, I think, would be tantamount. But Giovanna, if you can answer that too, when Manuel.
Yeah, I would just piggyback off of your comments, Bill. I think it's really important to get the word out. I think a lot of residents and businesses don't know of the new regulations taking place starting in January 1, 2022. And that's part of the reason why we've partnered with other stakeholders within the community in order to get the word out on other platforms. People that might not be seeing Republic Services messages or the city's messages. And in addition, I think it's also important to reduce contamination. So it will be the same as regular recyclable commodities. We want to, you know, reduce the contamination levels and have a good product that we're able to compost. So educating on what is and is not required will be essential as well.
So then the other question I have, you mentioned contamination and you mentioned fines. So with the recycling that is currently going on that we've had for so many years, there's still a lot of contamination. I don't know what the percentage is, but on that note, why haven't we started putting fines in? Why don't we start fining? Because at least people will have an understanding, hey, if I don't do this, I'm going to get fined. Then this new program comes on, you give them a grace period, they'll at least know that a fine's coming if I don't get to know this. So has anyone started doing, I don't know anyone that's giving fines. And I drive down on trash day and I see so much that should not be going into the recycling bin. I mean, to a point where I just want to go knock on their homes and just empty it all out in their yard. And that's something I would honestly do. But that's me. What are you guys doing? Let me backtrack another. When the reason why I became a sustainability commissioner has a lot to do with my background, and most of the commissioners know that when I had paid a visit to Taiwan, where my relatives live, it took them 20 years to get to the point to where everything is sorted. Mm-hmm. Everything is sorted. It was so trashy when I was a kid going there. It was so bad. But now you go over there, you can't even drop anything on the ground or put a seed in the wrong trash bin without the resident being so frightened that they're going to get fined, like heavy fine. So we are just doing this, oh, you're recycling, no. It's not working. So how do you even foresee the green waste, the organics being correctly done if we can't even conquer the recycling? I'm sorry. This is truly, I mean, unless you guys are out there holding their hand or giving them fines, it's not going to happen. I'm off my hand.
Just a few words is that one of the things that happened with recycling, I think, in my opinion, is that it started out with convincing folks that when we commingle recyclables, everything could be sorted out. And in this case, it's a different approach because we are, not only us, but the rest of the state and other cities and counties are going to be promoting that we cannot put plastics, glass, or metals in that organic waste stream. So I understand your frustration because I live it every day, but
I know you
it's,
do. I send you pictures all the time too.
but it's at this point, the approach that state is recommending is that we continue to heavily educate, and then yes, in 2024, that's when we could start doing a lot of this enforcement, and I mean, maybe not dump stuff in their front yard, but it will have to have that part of it where it does have an some kind of economic penalty to start getting folks to think about it.
Will
And the
that
good
be
thing is that it won't be
recycling
just
too?
us, it'll be the rest of the state.
Will that be recycling too?
At this point, it's just organics that we're required to, and recyclables not yet.
That should have been first, honestly.
Yeah, Chair Matthias, I second that. It's interesting to me that we're going to focus on negative reinforcement for organics, but yet recycling is still a voluntary enterprise. That seems backwards. I share your frustration, but I agree with the sentiment that was shared in response to my question. But like you had said, I'm afraid that shaping behavior in a sustainable way is something that is going to require a little bit more than education, because these sort of constructs that we hold and these ideas are going to require a lot more than a 30-minute seminar.
Yes, I agree. So I don't know if you know, I work with people all the time. I work with the community on sustainability and composting. And some of the questions that have been brought to me is people live in a complex, 200 people, and they're afraid that not everyone's going to listen and they're going to start throwing just everything into this bin. Well, this bin is going to be exposed to elements, going to be exposed to a lot of things, rodents and so on. So they're trying to figure out how, and half the people, you're trying to educate. Some of them are at work, some of them aren't. You're trying to have a little meeting with everyone. So it's going to be like knocking on the doors and sitting down and talking to people. So, and I know you guys don't have the staff, and there's not that many stakeholders out there that would be able to do that. So maybe give me some insight so I could tell the people that I'm working with and my volunteers and so on that are looking at this as God, what's going to happen?
Yeah, so I can answer that question. So first off, as I mentioned earlier in my presentation, we'll be hiring a dedicated recycling coordinator that will be going out to commercial businesses and multifamily properties in the city of Chula Vista. So they will be knocking, on doors, giving them a call, emailing them to set up a meeting in order to set up their food waste programs, as well as recycling. I think it's a full
hand in hand.
It's hand in hand. So they will be doing that. As far as for multifamily properties, so I think the approach will be to meet with the property owner or the property manager first. I don't think that we're necessarily going to meet with each and every tenant. I think it's important first to set up the program as a whole, provide signage, provide resources, kitchen caddies, and make it as easy as possible for tenants and resources for property owners and managers as well. And then obviously we'll also be giving presentations if asked to HOAs or properties that need additional assistance. And the city of Chula Vista, and Manuel, you might want to jump in here too. The city of Chula Vista, their staff, environmental staff, is also going out to businesses as well and educating.
Yeah, that's correct. And not only that, just a quick point of how the waste from multifamily properties will be handled is that just like the commercial organics is going to be sent to this turbo separator, so that will help with the contamination as well.
I just wanted to make a couple of comments because my name was brought up, and I just wanted to state, it is in our charter, and our commissioners are very passionate. It's really spelled out in it that solid waste and solid waste management is part of what is major responsibility of our commission. And we've touched up on a lot of things today, And, you know, it was brought up by another commissioner in search with the, in regards to the compost, I mean, not the compost issue, but the issue regarding the leachate. And, you know, it was very concerning. I did review it. I did express and brought it up I think at the last meeting. And yes, leachate, yes, it's what's not really a common thing, but I wouldn't think so much here. But yes, it is a material that would have been better managed maybe in Arizona, where they have the solidification that can take very liquid-like material. Yes, it can be a solid waste, but it's kind of a gray thing. And you know, those were large volumes that were taken, as you stated in the report. And so what I'm getting at is it's a very complex issue, all the things that we're talking about today. And I think we're at a crossroads in a sense when it comes to solid waste management. You know, we have the organics, and a lot of these touch our sustainability commission in many ways. We have a subcommittee that's dealing with plastics and working on a ban on certain plastics, or a plastic ban on materials like straws and things like that. And that's contaminating the solid waste. That's impacting the recyclables and costing more money to kind of screen all those materials. It's going to be kind of up to us in a sense to look at what we're going to put into that ban. It's going to be up to technology to kind of screen those materials, and hopefully we'll find items that are better, that can be used for those single-use recyclables, like changing out the straws and using compostable plastics. That hopefully that's another thing that we, you know, we're hoping that can you put some compostable materials in that green waste? Hopefully, you know, with the technology that you're going to bring, that might be something that could be under consideration as well. But yeah, it's I did share with our other commissioner. Those things do happen. We're just looking for a partner that hopefully you know, can screen out as best as possible a liquid-like material, because it's costly. It's costly for you. It's or costly for Allied Waste Republic to have to manage that those the leachate. It's you know, you got pumping that out. We saw on our tour all the portable bins that were used to store the material, and I'm sure you have to test each load that goes out, so that's very costly as well. So, but yeah, it's just our group here is very passionate about this, and I think it would be really nice to have you continue to probably come quarterly so that we can work together, because as we talk about these other issues and other venues, for instance, on our plastic ban that we're working on, we would look for direction from the private sector. Earlier today, we had a meeting, and our Commissioner Bob brought up methane, and I expressed to her, yeah, methane can be an issue at landfills, and hopefully with this organics program that's going into effect, that'll be a major reduction in methane. I think that's what pushed all these organic regulations in the first place. So those are all things that we would like to really work closely with you, with EDCO, because it's not just in the charter with the solid waste, but the methane, for instance, is coming up in our climate emergency declaration that we're working on, and that just came up today out of the blue in a sense, and this will address some of that. So appreciate you coming out and being online to share your experience and talk to us. But I think it would be real important if we could work directly a little closer with you, because what you have is the insight from the private sector. And I think that's real important, because everybody's pushing everybody to recycle. And I kind of get really disappointed when I see those ads, Coca-Cola and 7-Up, and you know, they like to push the recyclable bottle. But you know, they put that on the solid waste companies. And I think it's not fair to put that kind of pressure. Let's let them figure it out. Yeah, it's recyclable, but is it economically recyclable? Are you going to send it to China to try to recycle? We can't do that anymore. We've had some people approach us recently about bringing some technologies here in regards to plastics, and where you can heat the plastic to a certain temperature, and you can generate fuels, paraffin, diesel. It was just about 5 or 6 different materials of value. Of course, you don't get the full value under the diversion, and hopefully those things will change. But I think we're at a crossroads where everything's kind of coming together, and there's a lot of pressure. However, it's going to be really up to us to push back in a sense, and get the generators of these materials like Coca-Cola to have some responsibility in making a product that is manageable, easily manageable for those in the solid waste industry.
Yeah, no, and anytime I can, participate, just shoot, I'll glad just listen in. If you have some topics, I'll certainly participate. Thanks for the offer, Ed.
Same here. This is Giovanna. Please, I think you have my contact information.
Oh, yeah.
I can send it to you, and please include us. We'd love to partner.
Okay, do any other commissioners? Thank you, Legaspi. Appreciate it. Any other commissioners have any other questions? Well, I think that one, we would like to schedule a tour, and you said that second week in July would be great. And we would probably do it during the week versus the weekend. And hopefully we could get the all the commissioners. Well, how do we figure that out? Because don't we have to have a meeting, or how's that work, guys?
We could either have separate tours so it doesn't meet a quorum, or if we do one, we'll have to just notice it.
Okay, so I think honestly, because we still need to have our meeting, so let's do separate tours. Maybe we'll do 2 or 3 tours to get all the commissioners on, so that we could so we don't violate the Brown Act, and get over there to see you so that we could ask any other questions that we have when we get there, and really have an understanding of what's going to happen.
Sure.
I mean, it's definitely obvious that we need all of this. It's just we just all have to work together to figure it all out. We have a lot of challenges in the future. It's going to be a lot of challenges. So matter of working it all out is to be seen as to how we do it, and we're all on the same page. We just need to know how to get there.
All right. Well, I'll let you connect with Giovanna and Manuel for set up the tours. And okay.
I appreciate
Thank you.
it. Okay, thank you so much, Neil. Really appreciate it.
Bye-bye
you.
for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Giovanna. We'll be in contact.
Perfect. I look forward to it. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So on that, does staff have any comments they'd like to make before we go to public comment and deliberation?
Not at this point.
Okay, then I will call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments on the item before deliberation. And as commissioners, as a reminder, please refresh your screen to receive the latest comments up here. Thank you.
And time is up.
Chair, you're muted.
Got that, guys. The commenting period is now closed. Have the commissioners had enough time to read the submitted comments? Okay, we had one comment, and that is in support, and that there's a little bit more to the comment. Did anyone have any comments on that?
It was somewhat unrelated to this item, but it was in support.
Okay. Okay. So let's see. In support. So the next item, so I guess we'll go to the next item on the agenda is item 5.2 under presentations, the San Diego Community Power, and that would be given by Corey Downs and Carolyn Schofield.
Hello, thank you very much.
Thank
I'll
you.
be leading the presentation, and Carolyn will be speaking towards the end, but Carolyn, if there's anything that you want to correct or jump into, feel free to. Thank you very much. I'll be speaking about San Diego Community Power's Phase 2 launch, which is occurring this month. The presentation here, and since it has the bright San Diego Community Power colors, this was taken from slides that were delivered also to the Chula Vista Chamber of Commerce last month. So as a part of their business outreach, wanted to provide some additional information. Next slide. For those who are not familiar, San Diego Community Power is a public, not-for-profit provider of clean electricity. It doesn't provide natural gas. It also does not distribute the electricity. It purely purchases the electricity and then works with CalISO and San Diego Gas and Electric to distribute the electricity to its customers. It's locally controlled. Controlled by a board made up of one representative of each jurisdiction listed below, and also has a community advisory committee with 2 representatives from each community. Carolyn Schofield being one of the Chula Vista representatives, Ed Lopez being the second representative. And it is as the community choice aggregator. It competes to provide more renewable energy, but it is a choice. Residents and users have a choice whether they'd like to become San Diego Community Power or stay with SDG&E. Next slide. San Diego Community Power is going to be rolling out in 3 phases. The first phase happened in March, and San Diego Community Power came and gave a presentation around the phase 1 launch. That was 700 accounts, public sector accounts, starting small with a lot of the more public sector accounts, kind of making sure everything works. Scaling up in this phase 2, which is happening this month. There'll be in total 70,000 accounts enrolled. And actually, even though there's more residential accounts, this is the bulk of the energy that will be enrolled. About 7,700 of those will be in Chula Vista. With direct access, cogen, and net energy metering or solar accounts coming in phase 3. So the phase 1 enrollment, or sorry, phase 2 enrollment will occur whenever the monthly bill for each account, and that happens at a little bit different date for each account, but whenever that bill, the last bill cycles off and the first bill cycles on. So throughout the month, as those bills kind of hit the accounts, the San Diego Community Power will kind of enroll those throughout the month. To date, there has been about 1.7 account opt-outs, and that was compared to about a 15% assumed opt-out rate in our San Diego Community Power's planning assumptions. These opt-out rates are monthly reported in the board members or the board packets under the operations and administration section. There's a table that breaks it down by jurisdiction, as well as each month what the opt-outs are. And residents have, or each affected account in the phases received 2 mailing notices before the enrollment and will receive 2 afterwards. For the next 2 months, they'll receive a mailing notice letting them know about the change and how to opt out if they would like to. So this number is still really early, the 1.7 account opt-out rate. It will really be 2 months, so after August, when they'll have a firmer idea of what the opt-outs look like, but that's what they have so far. And then finally, phase 3 will have its own phases, but that will be residential and all other accounts, starting in February with Imperial Beach, starting with the smaller jurisdictions, and working up to Chula Vista and San Diego, the larger jurisdictions, in May of next year. So that's kind of the where we're at in their enrollment. And it's important to point out that if someone does, after the 2 months kind of grace period they give the account holders, if they choose to, they'll be defaulted into San Diego Community Power, but if they then choose to go back to SDG&E, SDG&E requires that they, after that transfer, that they maintain SDG&E service for a full year before they have the opportunity to opt out. So just want to make sure that users, new accounts are interested. If they're thinking, well, maybe I'll just stay with SDG&E for right now for a few months and then opt in once I know a little bit more about San Diego Community Power, they might be limited in their ability to do that. And there is more flexibility if they wanted to stay with San Diego Community Power, and then they can then join SDG&E at any time if they'd like. Next slide. One of the big focuses of the phase 2 enrollment is a lot of marketing that San Diego Community Power is doing. And again, these slides were taken from their board meetings. But here you can kind of see some of this one was in the San Diego Business Journal. Phase 2 is all business customers. So they're really trying to focus their marketing on the business sector, not try to put something general public out there, get people really excited for something they can't take advantage of for a year. So this is one of the advertisers that they put out. Next slide. Here's another version of similar for San Diego Voice and Viewpoint. They try to stress kind of it's a win-win, it's better for the environment, and the rates are going to be competitive as well. And if anyone's interested in these types of marketing, I would encourage you to participate or watch the either the board meetings, the community advisory committee, or the risk management committee, finance and risk management committee, because they get kind of more opportunities to provide input into marketing and advanced previews of the marketing as well. Next slide. And then the city has also been supportive of some of their social media. So if you're on social media, you might see some notices for them. I can tell you I am their target demographic. I've been seeing a lot of them. And so you might be seeing that out there. The city has kind of shared or promoted some of the social media as well. But there's lots of other opportunities for individuals to promote it. But again, we're really trying or they're trying to focus in on the business customers right now, not the full general. Next slide. And then one of the last marketing efforts that they'll be doing is a badge for businesses that have opted up to 100% renewable electricity. They'll get a window sticker that they can then put on their windows. This was something that our representative Carolyn Schofield was really brought to San Diego Community Power, and so it's really great to see the kind of community ideas that are being taken up into their outreach efforts. And so I think as city accounts, when these get shipped out, we'll be really happy to put them on our doors and let residents know that we're using 100% renewable energy. And very excited to see what that will do for greenhouse gas inventories. Next slide. One of the, I guess probably from a business perspective, this is the slide that most businesses want to see. There is a lot of businesses that have environmental goals and are happy to see San Diego Community Power help them with that. But, as a lot of businesses, they need to balance their budgets. And so they want to see what's it going to cost. And so right now, the general San Diego Community Power rates are about 1% below SDG&E. If you dig into that a little bit, you can see the amount that they're paying, or the amount that the generation cost, which is really what San Diego Community Power controls, is very competitive to SDG&E. If you see the Power 100 option is cheaper, that means 100% renewable energy is cheaper for San Diego Community Power to buy than SDG&E's default energy. So, they've been really trying to be very competitive on cost and have been really looking at how to drive down the generation costs that they control as much as possible. The larger portion is the delivery charges. So that's the distribution network. And I think this is where conversations about rooftop solar and local generation can really be spotlighted, because the less you have to use the delivery, transmission, and distribution network, the lower that everyone will have to pay these delivery charges for. And then finally, the SDG&E added fees. These are fees that stay with the utility and would are one of these is the PCIA power charge and difference charge, and that's something that actually that affects any ratepayer who's made a change. So, for example, for my house, I currently use SDG&E's EcoChoice 100% renewable electricity through SDG&E, and I pay this some of this SDG&E added fees as well, even though I'm an SDG&E customer. So it's something that mainly affects San Diego Community Power customers, but does affect others as well. And as I said, when you kind of do all the math, the base rate is a little bit cheaper. The Power 100 is a little bit more expensive, but still cheaper than SDG&E's EcoChoice 100. So when you're looking at apples to apples, there's a slight discount in rates for businesses. Next slide. And I should say that's the one, or that's the largest ATLOU, time of use account, for large industrial customers. There are different rates. Each rate is slightly different. And San Diego Community Power has a bill estimator on their website where a business can log in and select their specific rate that they utilize the most to really fine tune it and look at what the rate impacts might be of switching to San Diego Community Power. And so that's on the website and available now. Next slide. It's also important to talk about, well, I guess so when we're talking about what is changing, it's also important to talk about what's not changing, because there is a lot that is kind of still staying the same. So for example, billing, they're still going to be using their SDG&E My Account profile. They're going to be getting their bill from SDG&E. They're going to be paying their bill to SDG&E. But then at the back end, SDG&E takes the San Diego Community Power funds and provides this to San Diego Community Power. Service reliability, this is again related to the distribution grid or the transmission grid. Electrical service at a home, if someone loses power or has a concern about their power connection, they're still going to be calling contacting SDG&E. The rate structures are designed to align with SDG&E to make it as easy comparison as possible, so that they know, this is what rate I'm using now. This is the San Diego Community Power. You're not like comparing, there's not wildly different rates that then you have to try to bridge together. Discounts, and they say here, your day to day. So again, the billing is going to be SDG&E, maintenance is SDG&E. Really what San Diego Community Power is doing is just working behind the scenes before SDG&E decides what power to send, and changing who purchases the power that they're sending. There is a higher renewable energy content in San Diego Community Power's electricity, and they do not reuse out-of-state renewable energy credits. So that was something that, if you're noticing on the most recent power disclosure label, SDG&E's renewable energy dropped from, I think it was about 43 to 31%, but about 8% of that was actually renewable energy, but from an out-of-state provider, or a provider that wasn't connected to their electrical or the Cal ISO grid. So that's something that San Diego Community Power does not use, those renewable energy credits. And so they do have and with that, they still do have a higher renewable energy product. And I should say, they're very eager. And, I think one of the for me, when asking what's the biggest difference between San Diego Community Power and SDG&E, it's the transparency of their board meetings. If you watch the board meetings, you can see that the board members, board leaders, are really eager to get to 100% renewable energy as fast as they financially can. So they still have to balance a budget as well. They have to pay off financing to startup financing and set aside reserves. And I think almost every meeting, they're pushing staff to see how if we can come about to 100% renewable energy as soon as possible. And like I said, the rates are similar. What's changing? They have this reinvesting back into the community, and that's really tied to, because the board members are local elected officials that already serve community members. There is definitely a very strong desire to bring those projects as close to San Diego as possible. I'll mention later, you'll see some of the projects are not all within San Diego County, but I think in Southern California, and one of the big difference and a big reinvestment is the feed-in tariff program that San Diego Community Power will be enrolling. And that is designed to service smaller scale projects that are within the service territory. And that's something that San Diego Gas and Electric did not opt to set up. And I think it's a really great example of how they're looking to support more local projects that not only provide the carbon benefits and greenhouse gas benefits, but also the green economy benefits, all of the other benefits that a lot of project supporters are looking for. Next slide. So now I'll mention a few of the projects that the San Diego Community Board has recently approved. So these were all approved by the San Diego County Community Power Board in their last 2 meetings. It's mainly solar. There is a strong battery component on a few of the projects, like this one right here. It's in, like I said, this one is in Imperial County, so not in San Diego County, but in Southern California. And I think the thing I'm kind of wanted to just take away, I don't think any of the individual elements are something you have to take away with, but just the fact that, really their San Diego Community Power is ramping up their own energy portfolio that they own and operate to account for the increase in ratepayers that are going to come in this month as well as next month. One thing that I will say, and I think San Diego Community Power did some good negotiating, but it also is just reflective of how familiar renewable energy developers are with CCAs now. There was no credit or collateral obligations for San Diego Community Power, which is a really great and I'd say wise decision. That for a new organization, some of that credit or collateral can be really challenging to come up with before you really have, you're bringing in the full revenue of all your load. And so, the developers felt really comfortable working with CCAs. And so they kind of waived that requirement for San Diego Community Power. Next slide. The next project is 150 megawatts, so a little bit larger. This one does not have battery backup, but it will be serving, the demand during the middle of the day. And again, there was no credit or collateral obligations. This one is in Riverside County. Next slide. And the last one I'll mention is in San Diego County. And it does have a significant battery energy storage system. So 2 out of the 3 projects that they've approved do have that battery. And so I think it really shows that they're, focusing on not just the general electricity, but also that end of the day, how do you expand renewable energy and stretch it to go further than just when the sun is up? And again, no credit or collateral obligations. So, I think it shows the familiarity working with CCAs. And also, all of these are long-term, between 15 and 20-year contracts. So that will be able to help San Diego Community Power ensure rate stability, because the contracts will be stable. Next slide. The last thing I wanted to mention before I'll turn it over to Carolyn is the San Diego Community Power has adopted their net energy metering rates. And as the slide mentioned, it starts with SDG&E's net surplus compensation, which is how they determine how much net energy has been used throughout the year. And it has a little bit kicker. And they evaluated different scenarios when looking at this rate to adopt. They said we could match SDG&E, or we could double SDG&E, or do this 0.0075 addition. Doubling the rate, they said, would have too much of a financial impact on them. As I mentioned, they're trying to pay off financing, establish reserves, but they did say that matching SDG&E's rate didn't provide enough differentiation between customers. It didn't give a solar customer any reason to join San Diego Community Power, and they wanted to provide that kind of additional reason to join San Diego Community Power. They did limit the compensation to $2,500 per account, and it is defaulted into monthly settlement. So if a bill does go in the table that they have here, if there's a monthly credit, that will be rolled over to the next month. But if there is a net consumption and all the previous credits have been used, and there is additional consumption in that month, they will be billed that month, as opposed to kind of just keeping it on the plus sector and then doing one bill at the end of the year. Some of the feedback they received is with only one bill, it can be, with only one bill, and the fact that most solar customers are net consumers, so that bill can kind of add up throughout the year and turn into one rather large bill. And so they wanted to, the feedback they've got from users is it'd be easier just to charge us by a month so it doesn't kind of add up. But if someone did want to opt into an annual, they said, I'm getting a one annual bill right now. I like that. I want to stay with that. They'll be able to, but they'll be defaulted into the monthly. So they'll just have to request that change. And then it's also important to mention, I mentioned the feed-in tariff program, which is designed for small producers. Small producers are different than an average account that has solar for their own use. Net energy metering accounts are designed to kind of serve that building's energy. And so there really wouldn't necessarily be an opportunity to have then additional capacity beyond what that building is. And so it should be on its own separate account, its own separate meter, and it would be directly it would feed into the feed-in tariff program that then SD's Community Power can purchase. So I think those are all the points I wanted to make, but the next slide has some information that Carolyn wanted to share.
Thanks very much. That was great. And good evening, everyone. Good evening, commissioners and city staff. It's great to be here this evening to give an update about legislation and regulations pertaining to SDCP, as well as an update about the Community Advisory Committee and commercial and industrial rollout in Chula Vista. Originally, I was going to talk about AB 1139, but it has already been withdrawn. And what I did is put a link in the comments to an NPR article about this issue. Even though the bill didn't make it, some of the issues that were addressed in the bill are still with us and will still be being considered. And so I'm thinking about a couple things about that. One of them is some of the information on this slide I think is important because it tells us about who our electricity accounts and customers are in Chula Vista so that we can keep that in mind. And also I've attached, there's a second attachment in the comments that is a great, it's actually a hearing that the CPUC did, and Ed Lopez has recommended that to our Chamber of Commerce. And so I added that because what we really want to be looking at is how can we best get to decarbonation by 2045, and what are the issues in bills and legislation? How do they affect our electricity prices, and how do they affect our chances to decarbonize? So that was kind of what I was looking at and our goals. So on the slide, it shows that 13,209, we have 13,209 net metering customers in Chula Vista out of a total of 94,423 accounts. And that last number came from one of the slides that was in the beginning of the presentation. And that's about 14%. So, and those figures are specific to Chula Vista. And what this slide tells us, so this is from a board meeting, but this tells us about all the net metering customers in San Diego Community Power. And it compares, so we have 89,800 eligible net metering accounts spread between 5 cities. And so actually when I saw it, I wanted to check and see if we were sort of equally represented. And so I looked at our population figures, and our 3.8% of the net metering, and we're just pretty right, right in there with the average for the whole for San Diego Community Power. So I was excited to see that. The next thing that it shows, so 14% of our accounts are net metering, and about 97.9% of the net metering accounts are residential throughout, and this is throughout the 5 cities. And we don't exactly know where we fit in there, but we're probably pretty close to that number. And the next, one of the next numbers on this slide is that 9.2%. So that's our 8,232 accounts are CARE FARA customers. And CARE is the program that allows a 30% discount. And if you don't apply for that, you can get, through FARA, you can get an 18% discount. So those are for low income. So 9.2% of the total is what we have for CARE accounts. And for Chula Vista, that's a pretty small, because we have 3.8% of the accounts. We don't know how those CARE accounts are distributed, but we know that we're probably either around that number, but we're probably a little bit lower. So but I think that that's good information. But what this creates in Chula Vista is 3 different groups. So we have the solar owners that are in the large group of solar owners that have been having solar for a long time and have a different financial profile. And then we have our solar customers who are low income. And then about 84% of the existing ratepayers are going to be buying renewable electricity and waiting impatiently, some people, for Power 100. And so it's really important that we keep electricity rates reasonable too, in order to electrify, sorry. So one of the things that's happening is if the net metering price is too low, then some can't afford to go with solar because they need that net metering amount. But if it's too high, there's a possibility of cost shifts. And of course, we know that the major cost shift right now is from all of those fees, the PCIA fees. But the care accounts are affected by both scenarios because the cost shift affects them as well as, but then the NEM helps them too. So in order to look at all of those, I think it's important, as I said, to look at the other link that I added in, because someone just said earlier that it feels like we're at a crossroads. I feel like that bill really shows we're at a crossroads. We have a lot of legislation, a lot of CPUC regulations being voted on, and hopefully and moving forward, but we're piecemeal. Everything's, there's a little thing about the PCIA, and over here there's net metering. And so the fact that that meeting was held at the CPUC and the information is in the link is starting to look at the entire system. And that's what we're going to have to do going forward. But I think looking at this slide is a really good frame of reference in Chula Vista about who's affected and where do we want to go. So the other two legislative items, one is Senate Bill 612. It's back, the Ratepayer Equity Act, and it's in the California Assembly's Utilities and Energy Committee. And thank you to Chula Vista. Chula Vista has submitted a support letter, and San Diego Community Power is looking for additional organizations to submit support letters. And you can contact me and I can help you out with talking points. Also, individuals can comment as well. So the submission date for a support letter is June 24th, and the committee meeting is on June 30th. And so we're really excited that this bill is in the Assembly, and this deals with the power charge indifference adjustment. So we really want it to move forward. And finally, we had a CPUC ruling and also on the PCIA charge. And this is a good example because there were 3 issues in one proposal to the CPUC, and they adopted one of them, which is to provide non-investor owned utilities to more actively manage legacy energy resources. But there were 2 other parts of the proposal that they didn't adopt. And so what's happening is people are wanting things to move forward, and we do too. And so we don't want to, the CPUC has been working on this particular decision. It's been in front of them for a long time. And then I want to finish with the Community Advisory Committee news. And I especially want to thank Chair Mathias and Vice Chair Legaspi, because we've been able to meet with Councilmember Cardenas and Supervisor Nora Vargas about community outreach. And as Corey mentioned, San Diego Community Power is working on 2 main messages: win-win, which is where you can do the right thing and use renewable energy at a reasonable price, and local pride. And these are, of course, for our businesses. Businesses can meet their energy goals and help their community at the same time. Their outreach to the community is focused and targeted on, especially on specific accounts and businesses. And one area that we need help with is the Third Avenue Village Association. So if anyone has contacts within that group, they might be able to reach out better. And finally, well, Ed Lopez spoke before the Chamber of Commerce twice, and he and I also have met with Steve Padilla and Mayor Salas, and we're going to be continuing. And San Diego Community Power is looking for local partners with trusted institutions to work with, and also any event information that anyone has. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide, and my email will be on that slide, and you could contact me if you can assist us.
I actually added one additional information. This is the takeaway information. If you know any business who is curious about San Diego Community Power, the upcoming changes, recent changes that they've seen, any San Diego Community Power questions, Lee and Nelson have been brought on specifically to provide account support to businesses. So there's their contact information. And if there's any requests, we can also send that out to anybody. But just wanted to let you know if there is any San Diego Community Power question or any business groups would like to see a presentation, anything like that. Lee and Nelson have been really helpful so far. And then the next slide is the one with Carolyn's email. Oops, sorry for the formatting there. Her email it starts at the CAR.
Yeah.
The committee should be on the line above it. Sorry about that. And really just I was looking at the public comments that we received, and thanks to all the public members. There is one comment about the city willing to allocate abandoned land owned by the city to dedicate to a community power resource. And I would say yes. Even beyond that, I don't think it necessarily needs to be abandoned. The city doesn't necessarily own very much abandoned land right now. But you know, I think there's lots of opportunities around parking structures, additional rooftop, or any other kind of area where we can work to promote solar and renewable energy generation. We're definitely very interested in that. We have had a conversation with Grid Alternatives to provide low-income, disadvantaged community solar program. Unfortunately, because of how the state does their disadvantaged community definition, you know, it's a pretty narrow strip between the Portland on the west and Broadway on the east, and there's really not a lot of city land there. With the one notable exception to that is the old courtyard that is currently in a redevelopment agreement with MTS. So it's not necessarily, because it's a partnership with MTS, it's not something that is as easy for us to, it's not something that's solely within the city's control. But, you know, I always, if there is any other solar developers out there that are interested in specific areas of the city land, or that would like to have a meeting to kind of talk about different city facilities that they could leverage, that's definitely something that's high up on our priority list. And we're just trying to kind of connect the right developer to the right location. But we're definitely open and interested to that as well. And with that, I'd say if there's any other questions for me or Carolyn.
Hey, does any, I think we have to go to staff first. Are there any staff questions?
I did have a question real quick for Corey.
Okay.
The question is, I'm looking at my SDG and E-bill, and I have solar panels right now. And I know one of the incentives was, when I got on this program, it was the Net 5, kind of like the early adopter program. And I know there's the PCA or the exit fees that was discussed earlier. But if I look at my bill, and everybody sees these on their bills currently right now, you know, you pay your fee per kilowatt hour. But then aside of that, there's electrical generation, there's a transmission, there's a distribution, there's a nuclear decommissioning, there's a competition, transition charge, there's a local generating charge. And all those got wiped out. Those are all negative right now for me. What's the incentive for me, or will it be the same if I go with San Diego Community Power, or will I end up getting some of those back?
Well, so, you know, I think if there's net energy metering accounts that are you're currently taking advantage of, they have a grandfathering clause, and so for current members, the only change would be there'll be that slightly you'll get a little bit more, that 0.0075 cents per kilowatt hour, slightly more in payment from San Diego Community Power, but the other elements will stay the same.
Okay, so
And
I won't see those because I know that was a big incentive with going with solar. So, you know, I have my clean energy here at home. And so I don't want to see all those fees come back because that was
yeah, and you know,
a
that's
major
where
incentive.
I'm not as familiar with the difference. What I do know that the most recent net energy metering, there was some minimum bill charges that were incorporated into that. And so without knowing kind of if you're in NEM 1 or NEM 2, you know, there could be some slight differences. And then, you know, the big unknown will be for new solar customers what NEM 3.0 holds in details. And some of those decisions, like a minimum bill or a grid fee, a fixed fee, those are outside of San Diego Community Power's control. That's going to be decided at the CPUC level. San Diego Community Power is a party to the NEM proceeding, and they're lobbying for grid favorable charges. But that's still something that we will have to see. But then again, that's kind of the grid component. The component that San Diego Community Power controls is what rate do they want to reimburse solar customers for, and that's where San Diego Community Power said we'd like to be a little bit better than SDG&E.
Okay.
So Corey, when we have net metering, do we automatically, it's just going to be like every other Chula Vista residence, automatically rolled into, okay, good.
In that phase 3, that's going to happen May of next year.
May of 2022.
And that's for business solar accounts as well. So even though the city started enrolling our accounts in February, for our solar accounts, those are going to be in May of next year.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. And the other question I have is, I know it's hard to tell, and it's only the 11th, 13th day, 14th day. Can you tell me what the percentages of businesses are selecting 75 or 100%?
I don't have that offhand, but it is included in the board packet. So if you, let me try to pull it up right now. If you, when you go to the board of directors, each meeting, there'll be the agenda packet, and it's included in there. Let me just scroll. So for opt-up for Chula Vista, we've seen 65 opt-ups in March. I think those are most of those are the city of Chula Vista.
The city, yes.
With a few of the others, I think we were about 50 or so. So there's a few others, and there's a total 230 opt-ups to 100% in total. So, but this is only up to May, so it doesn't even include any of the new commercial customers. In their next board meeting, you know, it'll be a little bit delayed, but as with each month, we'll learn a little bit more. And I can tell you that we'll definitely be watching those to see kind of how they operate and what the opt-ups are. But so far, we're well below what was assumed in their financial assumptions.
Okay, so, but I know you guys have been doing a lot of marketing. Just an idea of how many do you think, or what the percentage is that people are opting up? I mean,
you know, I'm not, I wouldn't be able to tell that. I will say the accounts in Encinitas are going to be defaulted opting into the 100%. And then if they want to stay in the what we is our default, the powerful, the 50%, they would opt into that. Because that does carry a negative, or it will lead to larger bills unless they opt in. Chula Vista opted to allow them to opt up to that, but there will be a large chunk of ratepayers that come from Encinitas in that too. And we'll be supporting it and promoting it. But I think the metric that they're looking at more closely is that opt out.
Okay, interesting. Yes, Carolyn.
Oh, I was going to say, it looked on, Corey, on your slide, there were 114 accounts in phase 1. So how many, and you had the number of how many opted up. Can we figure out?
65.
65.
So more than half of all accounts in phase
Yeah.
1 opted up. But again, that was, a large chunk of that will be the city. There's not going to be as many, there's very few organizations that have as many accounts as the city or some of the large users. So I think it will be much more kind of, I'm sure there'll be a big, jolt when people first enroll, but then it will take time to kind of, that will be more kind of slow and steady to get that opt-up rate up.
Okay, it's also a mouthful. Okay, Carolyn, I have a question for you. I know you mentioned the CARE and the FERA. Now, will that package be rolled into the new power, San Diego Power? And will it be the same benefit, same type of benefits?
Yeah, as far as I have heard, yes, everything
Yes.
will be
Okay.
the same.
Because my understanding with that one too, they have other opportunity. They do house checks, kind of like what the city does. They when you're in the CARE, they also have other discounts and other sustainable programs for the CARE whoever's in the CARE program, that household could apply for or receive other CARE opportunities, I guess you could say. So,
Yeah. Just say all of the SDG&E energy efficiency programs will still be offered to all customers, regardless of their service provider for in the SDG&E service territory. Down the road, San Diego Community Power could opt to deliver those programs instead, but they haven't really, that's something more of the more mature CCAs are looking at. Right now, I think they're going to let SDG&E do that program and focus on their core finances.
Okay, totally get it. Okay, thank you. Okay, are there any other commissioners that have questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
Actually, two questions. One, you didn't mention anything about the contracts for the power that you're going to be selling for phase 2. It looks like, do you any idea what the megawatts demand is, and do you have that under contract at this point? Or do you still have to put contracts in place? I noticed a new stuff that's been put in place is coming online in 2023. They're 250 megawatts worth. What do you have in place now for the business side? And do you have that pricing? Is basically, I see the pricing has gone up a couple cents from the time the study was done, from 7 to 9 cents. Where do you stand on contracting, and what does that look like in terms of pricing?
Yeah, so it's important also to point out that this is San Diego Community Power, not City of Chula Vista. So for, I can relay what San Diego Community Power has relayed in their kind of board meetings. But when I speak, it's not San Diego Community Power. It's just providing a staff perspective of San Diego Community Power. Until these more long-term, newer contracts come on board, they'll be purchased. San Diego Community Power will be purchasing energy on the short-term market, which is something that every CCA has started with, and is something that they'll still do that after these contracts. It's something that every utility does at some scale. Right now, San Diego Community Power will just be doing it for a larger portion of their power until these contracts come online.
And you don't have any idea what impact it's going to have on pricing. The Commissioner Bao asked the question earlier about Texas, I guess at the last meeting, what happened with the spot power purchases down there during the big event they had in the rainstorm and the power outage. So are you looking at the potential here of pricing, which is going to be a little different than what you presented to the businesses because you're on the spot market?
Then you mean what San Diego Community Power presented in their rate analysis?
Correct.
Yeah, so they have made it clear that their goal is to, well, so, I think at a high level, as I mentioned, there's a lot of good environmental benefits that come from this program, but San Diego Community Power knows very well if they're not cost competitive with SDG&E, they're not going to be successful. Customers will choose to stay with if there's a significantly cheaper service, regardless of all the very high values and environmental benefit. They know that we've seen other communities where customers will choose the cheaper option. And so, they have made it very clear that their goal is to stay competitive with San Diego Gas and Electric. I don't know if that will always necessarily be under the 1% that they are right now, but they're committed to staying at that as long as they can. I think really without having a history, we really have to kind of create. We're right now we can only take them at their word. And knowing that if they do get higher than SDG&E, they know they won't be successful. And so, I think that's what they are telling us. And so, that's what we've heard so far. But really, I do think that we'll have to kind of, and the proof is going to be in their product. And that's going to be something that comes as they start serving customers and maintaining that rate and not raising rates.
So,
Was
so
that-
you don't know what the phase 2 megawatt demand, what the load's going to be for all those businesses? You said it was going to be the major part of the load in phase 2. That's part of the question about, is there power under contract to meet all that load at this point, or is that all going to be on the spot market?
Yes, they have power. Yes, they will be able to serve their customers when they're enrolled. I don't know. They do have that in some of their other board documents, and if there's interest, I can to look that down. What the load will be for phase 2, but I do know that they're ready to serve the customers that enroll. Is that what you were getting at?
Well, because I had raised a question earlier whether or not there was sufficient contracts, and what I understood earlier is that they were actually having to buy power from SDG&E on phase 1 because they did not have contracts sufficient to meet that load. So you're now talking about much larger load, and the question is where that power is coming from.
Yeah, and so that's where I would defer to San Diego Community Power on that. But from what I've heard from their meetings and conversations with staff, it's not necessarily, maybe it's a little bit of a have to buy power from SDG&E, but it's really just more so it makes a lot of sense to buy power from SDG&E. SDG&E now has a lot of power that they don't have customers for. San Diego Community Power has a lot of customers that they're looking to buy power for. SDG&E bought this power for these customers, so it makes a lot of sense that they're going to be able to work with San Diego Community Power, and SDG&E are going to be able to work together to to make sure that to make it, if there's a win-win for both organizations, I think that it makes a lot of sense to pursue that path. I know that San Diego Community Power is looking at and has been continually working with SDG&E to on contracting for power. They've been successful in some areas, been not I don't want to say not successful, but maybe they weren't selected in other areas. And just like a lot of other CCAs, that is one procurer of power in the region that kind of is ready to go with all of this power that they no longer have a need for. And so, like I said, it makes a lot of sense. But that also being said, there's a lot of other benefits that can come from creating all new energy generation. So that's the contracting is something SDG&E and San Diego Community Power will be working on. One thing I would say, if that's kind of an interest, the financial risk and management meetings, there might be some interest in participating there, because they still don't get into like the contract price. That's confidential. but they do dive into each of the contracts as well as ongoing negotiations with SDG&E. And those meetings are open for public comment too. So yeah, I'll say that, San Diego Community Power is ready to serve customers under phase 2. But if you had kind of more of the technical questions, how is the negotiation with SDG&E going? That'd probably be better for San Diego Community Power. I can just say they're ongoing.
Yeah, I fully understand that's confidential, but I also analyzed the consultant study that said the 7 cents per kilowatt hour that could be purchased by community power was less than SDG&E's contract price, and yet we're going to buy the contract price from SDG&E to meet those customer needs. Where's the cost savings? That's really
Yeah,
the
and
issue.
so
It's all about the numbers. You know that when I look at these things, and the numbers, frankly, make me a little nervous right now as to whether or not that savings that basically was the underpinning for community power is going to be realized, or at least when it's going to be realized. Maybe it's not till 2023.
Yeah.
When all those new solar panels come online.
There's also significant savings that can come from the spot market and the short-term market. There's that goes up and down, a lot more volatile than the long-term market, but there's some savings can come from that market. And it's also important to say that San Diego Gas and Electric will be one of the many energy providers to San Diego Community Power. So it's not like San Diego Community Power is saying, we're going to take all these contracts that, it's not just like moving, here's all the energy contracts for the service, new account members, and move them over to San Diego Community Power. It's really San Diego Community Power looking at all of SDG&E's assets and deciding which ones are in their financial interest to engage in. And so, I think that's where, from the new contracts, the short-term contracts, as well as the new long-term contracts, that's where probably more of the energy savings or the financial savings are coming from. But, we're also, or San Diego Community Power is also, the savings that they're modeling right now are not what were in our the feasibility report. Because they wanted to repay their the financing as soon as possible. And so, there will be some changes that have been made in recent years in the recent market. There was some increase. They did increase their rate earlier this year because of some increases in energy purchasing. And so, I think, like I said, I think they know that they need to be competitive, and that's what they've talked about. And so that. So far, they are.
That's all my questions at this point. Thank you.
Forgive me for interrupting. I apologize. The comment is twofold. One, thank you very much for the presentation. The second part, which is a non sequitur, is an apology that I absolutely must leave now. I have an 8 p.m. appointment, and so I have to get there. And so I apologize to the commission and staff that I absolutely have to leave. And I don't mean to be rude to our presenters. I very much appreciated your presentation.
No worries. Thank you. Thank you, Corrigan. Okay. Any other questions from commissioners? No? Okay, the staff have any? Oh, wait, I heard someone.
Oh, no, so I was just going to say the big thing, there's lots of conversation about the different rates, but the big notice that we want to let everyone know is if there's a business customer, expect something in their mailing address, and if they miss it, they'll still see the change in their bill at next month. And if they have questions, reach out to San Diego Community Power. They were really helpful with our account staff who had questions about what will this change mean, and hopefully they'll be helpful to all other Chula Vista businesses as well.
Thank you, both Corey and Carolyn. I really appreciate this. Is very informative and gives us a really good insight of what's happening and what all the good that's coming down the way. So thank you so much. And we look forward to joining May of 22. So thank you. So let's see. Does staff have any comments? Nope. We will go to public comment and deliberation. Do the committee, so let's see, 2 minutes. Thank you. So at this time, we will pause for a 2-minute break to allow the public to submit any final comments on this item for deliberation. Commissioners, as a reminder, please view your screen to ensure, renew your screen to ensure the latest comments appear.
Time is up.
So I will thank you. The committee period for this item is now closed. Have the commissioners had enough time to read the submitted comments? And I believe, yeah, we have 3 comments.
Actually, there's 4 comments, 2 supporting, 2 neutral. And to point out, there's the comment from Carolyn Schofield with all the links that you mentioned in the presentation.
Okay, that's what happens when I did not renew or refresh my, oh, there's the 4th one. Okay, thank you. Excellent. Okay, sounds great. Thank you so much. Do commissioners have any comments? No. Okay, is there a motion to approve? Wait, this wasn't a.
This is a presentation, so
Yeah,
no.
this was a presentation.
Yeah.
Okay, I went too far. Okay, so we will go ahead and go on to action items. And the next item on the agenda is item 6.1 under action items, and it's a discussion and action on the proposed revisions to amend Chula Vista Municipal Code, Chapter 2.32.060, membership to increase the number of commissioners serving in the Sustainability Commission from 7 to 9. So the staff recommends that we approve. Is there a presentation?
Good evening, commissioners. This is an item that was on the agenda last month at the recommendation of legal. They wanted us to be more specific in the actual language, which is what we've done. So we've included in this agenda for your consideration.
Okay, and I think it's very clear now. So does staff have any other comments to make before we go to public deliberation? No? Okay, do the committee members, commission members have any questions for the staff? Okay, so I will now call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments on the item before deliberation. As commissioners, remember to refresh your screen to have the latest comments appear.
Time is up.
Okay, thank you. The comment period for this item is now closed. Have commissioners had enough time to read the submitted comments? I
Yes.
believe there was one. Okay, good. I believe there was one in support. And do commissioners have any comments at this time? Nope.
I have a question.
Yes.
This concept of expanding the commission by 2 members came out of the workshops that we had a couple of years ago. And intention was to have a youth member and a member from the planning commission to fill those 2 slots. This particular amendment does not say anything about changing the method where these 2 positions will be filled. So I'm assuming that basically these are just adding 2 commissioners who'll be filled the same way as existing ones do.
Well, I do realize that the planning commission, we weren't able to go across like that. That's one thing that the city attorney said that would not work. But we were able to bring in a high school and a college youth to our programs, or young adult to our commission.
This particular item, I guess, is this adequate? And maybe this is a question for Mr. Silva. Is this adequate to say we want to change also the type of individual, or bring that individual from with a specific set of credentials, whether it's youth or something else? Is this adequate to do that, or we simply have to expand this commission and then it's up to the mayor and so forth to decide who gets on the commission, just like current process?
Well, the council ultimately decides. However, you can recommend to increase the number from 7 to 9 and add as as an additional recommendation that the additional members be, a youth, a high school or level kind of person, and somebody that's in a college age person.
Yes.
That can be added as an additional recommendation. And then council can decide what it wants to do.
Okay, I think we did have that in there from the very beginning.
Yes, this is a takeout from a much bigger amendment we were trying to do to the what we call the charter for this commission, which this is all that's surviving at this point, I guess.
But so you could recommend that as well.
Okay.
And Chair Mathias, that is correct. The discussion around having student representatives is something that was shared to us, and that is something that the city would be supportive of if it's a desire of this commission.
Yes, I think to bring the youth on and showing them what we're doing and how they could make a difference in their community and with their government at a young age, and they can make a difference is the most important part. And so, yes, absolutely. And so, on that note, is there a motion to approve the increased membership of the number of commissioners from 7 to 9, and for youth, the youth be both college and also a high school youth?
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Any other commissioners would like to second that?
I actually have a comment.
Yes.
I think we might want to refine the wording so that the high school one is fine, but the college or college student might be just someone that's in that age group and not necessarily be in college. I mean, are we restricting, oh, you've got to be in college? Sorry, you're 20 years old, but you can't be on it, or they just have to be a regular commissioner. I was just thinking maybe the
Well,
requirement.
we didn't say college age, so we're saying college student.
Okay, so college age, we're thinking that's implying that they're, in their early 20s or younger. Is that what we're saying?
Oh, I see what you're saying. So you're saying that it might imply someone who's in their 40s and they're going to college, that they want to join.
No, I think that I was saying the reverse. I thought maybe are we saying, is it an age thing or someone that's in college thing?
No, I think it's both. It's a youth, it's a young adult in college.
Yeah. in college.
Yes. Not just
Okay.
college age.
Okay, in college. Okay. Then we probably should make it clear somehow.
So do we need to rewrite this, or can someone come up with just the correct phrasing so we could just
Well,
Wait, just amend it right now? Like
yeah,
make
amend
a,
it now. That's what I was thinking. So we don't have to bring this up next time.
can I just say one thing? I always
Yes.
have a concern about just linking it to age alone, because it may violate discrimination standards for people based on their age. That's why I prefer linking it to college
College student. Okay.
or junior college. With an interest in
Sustainability.
So
Okay.
so I think before we were saying college age, which is age related. So a high school youth and
College
student. Yeah. So can I make a proposal?
Yes.
Okay, I'm proposing that we that we amend 6.1 language membership to increase the number of commissioners serving on the Sustainability Commission from 7 to 9, with the 2 new members being a high school youth and college student.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so let me
Just
rephrase.
I just had a quick, because we've been, or, our section's been working a lot with, equity. I think you might not want to put the college participation barrier. I think there could be a lot of youth or, young adults that maybe are not in college that would have something to contribute. And by having a college participation requirement, you might be excluding community members that you don't intend to.
Okay.
I have a question in response to that. Is there an age limitation to begin with? Because if it's a resident and somebody who's interested in serving, they could already apply, right?
Yeah.
This is true, but most young adults and students, they're intimidated. And so if it doesn't specifically call out for them, they don't necessarily even know that they can apply.
well, can you just say college youth, high school youth, and college youth, or college age youth?
But we were just told that age was an issue. If we
It
said
is an
age,
issue, but I haven't researched the issue to see what exactly the parameters are. Other cities have done it, and other boards have that requirement. I'm leery I don't have an answer to that.
So
I would say let's just do it as a recommendation, and then we can research it before it goes to council. If we have to change it, we'll come back.
okay, so with the recommendation being 2 new members, both high school youth and college, what did you say? College aged youth?
Youth, yeah,
College age.
because that's what you want, isn't it?
Okay, yes.
well, I honestly, if we're trying not to include college as a requirement and you're worried about equity barriers, then the word college age, I think, is gonna still be heard as a college student, and you
How
should
about
just be
young
saying,
adult?
yeah, young adult below 30 or under 25 or something.
Okay, young adult. Okay.
Just want to keep everybody in mind that that will up our quorum requirement as well. So maybe we should really take this into consideration.
Yeah.
Not to say that we're not, but on how we look at the type of applicant we're looking for.
Yeah.
Yes, Chair Mathias, this is Dennis. It was our understanding that the commission was interested in tapping into the unique value and perspective that a high school student and a college student would bring to the table. That was our understanding.
Yes, that's absolutely it too.
I realize that. It is going to just up our minimum requirements for meetings. That's all. I mean, I'm not saying not to, but now we'll have we have nine. I mean, now we're going to have 9 members, so our quorum requirement will be raised.
So the other question,
I think the quorum would go from 4 to 5.
Okay, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
so the other question I have is for these youths, for 4 years is a really challenge for a good challenge for them. So can we make it a year or 2 years at the max? I honestly would think a year and then give someone else, these youths, someone else a try. I don't know. What do you guys think?
It's kind of what I'm thinking about, and maybe you can have a backup or something if they can't show up to a meeting due to their high school curriculum.
I agree that 4 years is not going to work. They're going to be off onto something else or going to college somewhere else.
Exactly. Well,
yeah.
I know with Zoom, look, they could go online now.
Yeah. Well, we can recommend, that they get 2-year terms.
Okay, I like the 2-year. Okay, let me see if I'm ready now. Okay, is there a motion to approve the increased membership of the number of commissioners serving on the Sustainability Commission from 7 to 9 members with two new members, high school youth and a young adult serving a 2-year term. Okay. Is there someone there to approve this motion?
Let's see, do I second it? Are you proposing it or?
Well, Richardson, I had to rewrite it all, so.
Yeah.
It raises an awful lot of questions. I'm hesitant, I guess. I'm not sure. What are we gaining by adding the 2 members at this point, other than asking for additional perspective to be brought in? The real intent of this from originally was to actually have some cross-pollination with other commissions in the city to basically make sure that we had a good emphasis on sustainability, particularly when it comes to development and planning. Sustainability seems to be, a secondary commission. And that was really all of this stuff was about, to raise that issue. Adding high school and youth at this point, young adult, I don't have a problem with that, but I'm not sure what we gain. That's what I'm trying to measure in my own thinking.
I know that adding a couple of members, I think at one point was so that we can have more people to put on different subcommittees. It's often a challenge for some of the members to be on the subcommittees currently or in the past. Kind of lighten the load for the subcommittees was a big thing.
Well, for the sake of the meeting, I'll second the motion.
Bob, did you first?
I guess I propose the motion.
Okay. Okay. So that being said, Bob proposed the motion and Richardson seconded it. And so I have a motion by both of them and you guys got it, increase the membership of the commissions serving on the Sustainability Commission from 7 to 9 with 2 new members, both high school youth and young adults serving a 2-year term. There we go. Okay. Thank you. And let's see. Oh, roll call. I forgot all about that. Can we have a roll call, please?
Okay, Commissioner Baugh,
Aye.
Commissioner Guevara,
Aye.
Commissioner Richardson,
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
Abstain.
okay, Chair Legaspi,
Aye.
and Chair Matthias.
Aye. So the, okay. So it passes and with one abstaining. Unanimous, or passes unanimously with one abstaining. Okay, the next item on the agenda is item 6.2 under action items, discussion regarding annual report of activities for fiscal year 19 and 20 and fiscal year 2021, and authorizing the chair to work with staff to finalize and submit reports to the city clerk. Staff recommendations are for us to discuss activities and authorize the chair to work with the staff and finalize and submit. Does staff have a presentation?
We do not. This is more of a formality at the request of the city clerk's office.
Okay. So let's see.
Can I give you some background on it? This is turn on my video. I'm sorry, I didn't know if I didn't have my video on. Just by way of background, this is really just an annual summary, and this that you have to do it for 2 years of just your activities that you did. For example, you can have you know, for your commission, just try tailor it to your commission, is letters in support of various bills that you authored, the number of presentations that were given during your during the 2 calendar or fiscal years, the subjects that you covered, and then the work of your ad hoc committee that's there, just the kinds of things. So it's a summary. I'm doing the one for the Board of Ethics, which I also advise. So on that one, I'm going to have the number of meetings we had overall, the number of hearings we had in terms of Board of Ethics complaints, the number of trainings we had, and the trainings included, we had a Brown Act training, Public Records Act training. We had training on how the Code of Ethics works, and then the enforcement mechanism. And then just other kind of miscellaneous things that we've done. And part of the reason I'm putting the number of meetings is because of the pandemic, we met less. And so that's really what the activity report is about.
So have we ever had, I know I remember the activity reports, but have we ever had to go through this as an action item?
No, I think it struck a lot of people by surprise. That custom was, since I know like I described the Board of Ethics one, is because I've done them in years past for the Board of Ethics. And it was under the impression that staff did it. But when you actually read the language of the text, which the clerk read for us, it says the board or commission shall prepare. So we do need to bring it to the board or commission for action. But staff can prepare it, and then the way the motion is written is that the chair would work to finalize it. That would be the final review to submit to City Council.
Okay. That sounds good. It's funny what happens when we read everything, huh? All these little details. Okay, that sounds good. So
I move approval.
okay, sounds good. Is there a second? Oh wait, we have to do the 2-minute pause.
Yep.
We're all trying. It's late. So I would like to call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments on the item before deliberation. Commissioners, please refresh your screen to ensure comments appear.
Time is up.
Okay, the commenting period for this item is now closed. Have the commissioners had time to read? I think there was one comment. Okay, do commissioners have any comments or questions? No. Is there a motion to approve the annual report of activities and authorizing the chair to work with staff to finalize and submit reports to the city?
So moved.
Okay, Richardson and any other commissioner?
Second.
Rodriguez. Okay, sounds great. So I have Commissioner Richardson first and Commissioner Rodriguez second. The motion is approved. And let's see. Now we're into, thank you. Oh, roll call.
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Baugh,
Aye.
Commissioner Guevara,
Aye.
Commissioner Richardson,
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Legaspi,
Aye.
and Chair Matthias.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that is approved. Thank you so much. On to other business, staff comments.
Hi, this is Colleen Wisniewski, Environmental Sustainability Manager. I have two very short comments I would like to make. One is that our second annual Summer Sustainability Series starts this Thursday at 4 p.m. and I'm trying to do two things at one time. You can see the whole list here. And you can find that at our usual website, which is, I should have put that on here, but it's chulavistaca.gov/clean. You'll find all of these. These are approximately 1 hour free webinars. We're trying to do them about twice a month throughout the summer months, kicking it off this week. Free to attend. They will all be also recorded. So if you've missed any, you can always go back and watch them again. But we encourage you all to participate and check them out. We've got some really great topics this year, starting off this week. The one this week will have guest speakers from San Diego Green Building Council, grid alternatives, as well as city staff. And as you can see, we've got a lot of other great ones coming up, which will all have guest speakers as well. So not just city staff on all of these. I also wanted to mention that we met earlier today for our Climate Emergency Declaration Subcommittee. We welcomed our newest member, Commissioner Legaspi, and with Commissioner Baugh and Corey and I, we sort of kind of talked about where we were. We all have our marching orders and homework that's going to be due, and then we're meeting again just due to busy summer schedules. Our next meeting will be July 27th. But we all kind of know what to expect at that meeting and have sort of our talking points together, and we'll keep you all updated as we move ahead with our progress this summer. And then I think Corey may also have one or two things to mention about some other upcoming webinars before we pass it along to the next person.
So first of all, we'll give a quick shout out for the webinar later this week. I'll be speaking on that, and I'm really excited. We're talking a lot more to residents about how to electrify their home. If you're for most homes that weren't planned for all electricity, it's not simple. There's lots of tricks and tips to use. So we'll be covering those. Will also be myself as well as Barbara Lochi will be presenting to the Local Government Sustainable Energy Coalition on July 1st along with Eric Engelman, who's been very helpful in creating our existing building ordinances on the both residential and commercial side that we'll be talking about. Finally I'll be presenting about the cool roof ordinance or cool roofing here in Chula Vista, which is actually the state minimum, but that'll be for ICLEI, which is a national organization. So hopefully we'll be kind of letting other cities know what California is doing to lead the way regarding cool roofing. And then the last thing I'll mention is we've gotten some really good feedback on the building decarbonization working group. We don't believe it is going to be a Brown Act notified meeting. So hopefully it'll be a little bit more informal, but that being said, we've got really good participation from a very diverse group of stakeholders, environmental organization, builders, everywhere in between. Commissioner Richardson will be kind enough to volunteer, so thank you very much about that. And if there is any other organizations that you think would like to participate, feel free to let me know and I can reach out to them. Or if there is any information you think the group should see, let me know and I can share that with them. We're looking to hold our first meeting, which will be mainly introductory and setting the stage, July 21st. So that's coming down.
Okay, thank you, Corey. A lot of information. Any
I
other
have
stuff?
a couple things to report just quickly. Towards the end of this month to early July, you'll be receiving, all residents in Chula Vista will be receiving a mailer on the organics waste program, an educational mailer with information on what goes and what does not go, which is extremely important, as what we spoke to about earlier, with a lot of great information. There'll be a one-pager, double-sided, very colorful, so keep an eye on it. We work very hard on it, and this will be one of many that we'll be sending out, not just to residents, but to also businesses. I'm also inquiring with EDCO about the tour. A couple of commissioners were asking about touring their facility, and the great thing is that they actually are, right now they're not available. They're going to make them available as of August and September, but you'll get to see brand new equipment that they're retooling at that facility. So it'll be a great tour, and I think we could do it the same way as we are planning to do the landfill tour, where we have multiple tours, so it doesn't have to affect a quorum. And then lastly, we were awarded a grant by Cal Recycle for $170,000 to equip parks on the west side with recycling. So if you, some of you remember some of the containers we have at City Hall, where we have the recycling portion on top and the trash on the bottom, very high level, very easy to see and to notice. So those are the same type of containers we want to have at other parks in the west side. So it will help with recycling, and also helps with recycling poaching. It makes it easy for folks to just take the stuff out of there. So at least we're keeping the stuff out of the trash and helping folks that are in need. That's all I have.
Commissioners, I just had one quick update. We had our second meeting with Gina McCarthy, who is the domestic climate advisor for the Biden-Harris administration. She helps coordinate 36 federal agencies. The city of Chula Vista participates through Climate Mayors. Our mayor is part of the leadership team. She's part of the steering committee. So the current administration has been very open in terms of engaging with climate mayors. So we're very pleased that those conversations have continued. Our last meeting that we had a couple of weeks ago was focused on ways with which climate mayors, the cities on the ground, can help inform the federal government in terms of opportunities to open up federal resources, more efficiencies, make some of the federal programs more effective. So we're excited about that. We'll continue to participate in those conversations, and we'll be glad to report to this commission as those discussions continue.
Thank you. Okay, chair's comments. Besides being very tired, I am wanting to schedule a plastics recycling plant tour up in San Bernardino. So if anyone's interested, I'll make sure that we only have the allowable limit so that we don't violate the Brown Act. But if anyone is interested, please let me know. It looks like we're trying to schedule something the end of this month. So, and it would be during the week. It's usually on a Thursday or Friday, I believe. Please let me know and I'll put you on the list. And that's it for me. Are there any commissioner comments?
I have one comment, I guess.
Yes.
I mentioned earlier the water issue with the Colorado River. The limit basically of 1,075 feet is when the federal government will declare a water shortage emergency. As of Friday, the Colorado River, and actually it's Lake Mead, is at 1,072. So we've crossed the threshold. The city of Las Vegas has, by ordinance, required the elimination of all non-used grass, basically median grass and so forth, to be removed as a method of saving water. The city of Tucson has revisited curbs and basically allowed for curb cuts so that water running down the street does not end up going in the gutter in the stormwater. That actually people can use that water and divert it so they can use it on their property for maintaining their foliage and so forth. And I'd like to have a report back from the city of Chula Vista staff. What's the plan look like? We're going to be facing a water emergency here. Other cities are acting. They're being proactive. I don't want to see the city of Chula Vista reacting when the message comes down, we got to cut water again. I'd like to see the plan. I'd like to be able to review that. That's obviously one of my concerns about the leachate and that sort of thing. So I would like to request as early as possible that we get something back from the city staff on what the plan might look like.
Very good. Very important topic. Is that something that we could, I don't know if the city has anything that they could present for next month.
We could inquire with the water agencies as well.
Okay.
Can I contribute to that in terms of the water? So each water agency prepares a 5-year and a longer term water plan. Now it's required by the state, and it was just issued this spring. San Diego County Water Authority issued their spring projection report, and I can't remember the exact name of it, but I could send it to you. Anyway, I think that's the report you're looking for, and maybe really we can get it, make it available. I don't know that, or the city staff could give it, make it available to us, but I'll make it short because I was teaching a water conservation class and I made all of my students read the executive summary. And the city or the county of San Diego has done a pretty good job of planning and diversifying. We have, with our recycling, recycled water, our pure water programs that are coming along, and our desalination facility, that they are projecting that we'll be all right even with a sustained drought. So I don't think you're going to see any emergency plans happening in this county of San Diego. It would have to be years of sustained drought before that would happen. They might go into a level 2 to stretch their water when they need to.
Very interesting.
And that is interesting, but I'm not sure, simply because we're not expecting to have a water emergency doesn't mean we oughtn't to conserve water. It seems like we ought to be doing the right thing before we're forced to do it. That's the only point.
And I think that discussion goes to the water agencies, and the water agencies will have an ongoing program of conservation. They'll start to ramp it up. They'll do their more education, etc. I'm certainly not arguing with you because water conservation is my career, but you can't cry wolf when there isn't a wolf all the time, but you have to keep everyone looking out for wolves.
Well, I guess the only, I'll not pursue it further, but there is an assessment by hydrologists that we have entered a new aridity, as it's referred to in the Southwest United States. We're no longer in a drought. We're no longer in a mega drought. We're in a new climate. So despite the fact that the water agencies are preserving water, it's still incumbent on all of us as users of water, and the city is one of the users, to have a plan for what we can do to reduce our consumption. That's a basic sustainability issue, and I wouldn't look to the water agencies to fix it. I think it's something the city needs to have a plan for, just like we have a plan for recycling rainwater or other things we might be doing in our personal homes. We shouldn't be waiting for somebody else to declare an emergency before we're prepared to say we need to preserve this very valuable resource.
Very true. Yeah, I think we need to be proactive versus trying to figure out a solution after we've already entered into it, which we pretty much have already. But yes, if the staff could please have the water agencies maybe even give a presentation so that we could ask them some questions to see what's upcoming, that would be great for next month.
Okay, we'll work
I
on it.
appreciate it. Okay. Thank you. Any other commissioners' comments? Nope. Okay. It is now 8:28 p.m. and I am adjourning this meeting to July 12th of 2021 of the next regular meeting of the Sustainability Commission via teleconference in Chula Vista, California. And hopefully we will be out of teleconference and at our regular room site. So we are adjourned. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
All right.
Good night. Great meeting.